It never in NBA history has a 59th pick ever held up a trade until now. But, leave it to Ersin.
Give me Concanipple.
Queen can help alleviate the rebounding that Sar gives up.
How about RJ and Grady? Deal. Done. They're going to hate me for this. They're going to say I overpaid. So the format for everyone who's watching this after is going to be that we're going to all manage, 6 to 8 different teams. There might be trades. There might be, some surprises here. We're going to see. And also, just so that everyone is clear, there's an assistant general manager for everybody. So, for instance, all of my picks, my assistant general manager is Cyro. For all of Ersin's picks, I'm the assistant general manager. If I want to make a trade on behalf of one of the other teams that Cyro manages, I would then act as the general manager of that team. That's to just avoid that. So, yeah, on the board, the Dallas Mavericks. Anyone want to make a trade offer to me for one of the teams that you manage before I make the most obvious draft pick in this draft? Going once? Going twice? Nobody? Bueller? Okay, cool. There will be no drama at the beginning of this draft. The Dallas Mavericks pick Cooper Flagg out of Duke University, an awesome, versatile forward with, I think, all NBA upside potential and first team all defense potential, and one of the most productive freshmen I've seen, and the youngest player in this draft. So on the board, number 2, and that will be the San Antonio Spurs. Mohamed, you're on the clock.
For me, just another no-brainer. Give me Dylan Harper from Rutgers.
Do you not want to field any trade calls for this? And does anybody want to make a trade offer for this? I mean, first of all, are you listening?
I'm listening to everything. As the Spurs, we have a lot of movable assets. We got 2 picks in his draft with 2 and 14. So for me, there's a lot of opportunity for me to move, but I think with the direction of this team, I don't want to give up too much and not have to sacrifice with too much talent, at least the top end for my team. But I'm all ears if anybody's willing to sell their team out.
Sell their team out. Okay. Cyro, any team you manage that might want to make an offer for the second overall pick?
I did think about it, but because of the position of the franchises that I'm controlling, for example, the Hornets and the Wizards, I don't think I'm at the position where I would want to swing up for a guy like Dylan Harper. I did actually think about, like, if I had been controlling another one. I even thought about it for the Wizards, but we're still in an asset gathering standpoint of our rebuild, that it doesn't make sense to trade up for a ball handler, that there still might be a ball handler available for us at either 6 or 18. So I'm not going to do anything. I did think about it. I did actually think about it hard.
Ersin, any team that you manage that may want to make an offer for this? I've heard your Brooklyn Nets are very interested in this number 2 pick.
Nah, I thought about it, but if I think about it once more from all standpoints, I'm like, nah. I think it's expensive to move up, and you're always leveraging the future. I think that's gambling and putting a lot of thought in this class. I think next year is much better. Why should I go for number 2 this year? That is my thought. I was thinking about it with Philly, but yeah, they're in an awful position, man. They just have to maybe trade back. That's the thought I should have instead of going for number 2.
Okay. Now I'm looking at the teams that I'm managing here, and I'm managing 2 teams that have all NBA forwards on the board. Mohamed, do you have any interest in Kevin Durant?
I mean, of course. I mean, who would not? I think a guy who is approaching kind of the back end of his career, but is still a top 15, top 20 player. Who would not want Kevin Durant? But I think the asking price for that, what would you be willing to give up? Or what would you per se your asking price is?
Well, I'm willing to give you the highly coveted 29th overall pick. And Kevin Durant for Keldon Johnson, Harrison Barnes, and that number 2 pick.
That's your final offer?
I mean, it's I don't know how it's going to get much better than that. I mean, your franchise player had a very big health scare. Don't know how many years you're going to have. It's very possible that through the Shaolin monk training that, he's retired from basketball in a couple of years as, he just finds God. I don't know. So I'm curious if, you might be willing to move up your contention window a little bit.
That deal is enticing, but I think just for the continuity of the team and just trying to move forward, I think, there's always never a guarantee with these kind of guys. It's kind of a rental, and especially in a pick like this, how often is it that, a strong team like, at least moving forward with San Antonio gets the number 2 pick again. So I think it's just best if I kind of keep my cards and keep that number 2 pick, and with that, still select a Harper out of Rutgers. It was definitely enticing, when I was why I asked you, if you want to, or is that your final offer? Because there's, not much we're giving up, but that second pick, Harper could be something special in this league. And I think he's another player as well, as you mentioned with Cooper, that, he has that all NBA upside to him. So, for me, I think it's a no-brainer for me. So, yeah.
Okay, cool. So we are drafting Dylan Harper, number 2. And this is where I think the draft gets very, very interesting. So, yeah, it's probably going to be like 35% what you think, 65% what you think Philly thinks. But I think there's a chance that Philly and you are completely in cahoots on the player you value here. Do you want to explore offers for this number 3 pick, or are you just taking your player?
I'm taking my player. Of course, you can trade back with the decision I'm going to make, but I'm not going to do this because I value him as the number 3 guy. Hey, you already picked him, man.
I knew where you were going with
That's
this.
about I thought about this a lot, man. I was thinking about what they need. Of course, they are tight, man. Their heads are tight. They have Embiid and they have Paul George. I think it's expensive to move up from Paul George compared to what they have to give up. That's the number 3 pick.
Mm-hmm.
And Ace Bailey is the consensus number 3 guy, but he doesn't make any sense for me for them. I think they're going to value Justin Edwards, his position with the team.
As your assistant general manager, who's not nearly as high on Trey Johnson as you are, but I'm very, very curious. Are we open to trading this, boss? Are we like open to shopping this to one of the teams that Cyro or Mohamed offer, and or either one of you guys want to make an offer for Paul George and this number 3 pick?
Let's listen to the offers they have.
Cyro, any offers?
Really, the only player that I'd have expendable with the team that I would offer, and it would be the Hornets, because if it seems like the player you'd be going, but again, at this point, it would be Miles Bridges. But at this point, if I know you're going to be taking said person, I would rather just hold on to Miles Bridges and just field offers down the road, because you
don't know that we're taking Trey Johnson. We might take Ace Bailey. You don't know that.
And that's fine by me, because what I need is a connective piece between LaMelo and Brandon Miller, or between Brandon Miller and our center, who could be Mark Williams or somebody. Because, I just feel like Paul George does not fit the Brandon Miller, Miles Bridges wing and then kind of duo. And if we get any more forwards or wings, we're just going to create a log jam. And we're kind of have to figure out what we're going to do with Miles Bridges moving forward, as he doesn't, I personally think, fit what the Hornets are doing. He's just paid grossly. So unless Miles Bridges...
Does podcasting ability factor into your roster building at any point? Because I can offer you one of the best podcasters in the NBA.
Yeah. I mean, look, he could also join the best rotation off the court, allegedly, that LaMelo has. But I think right now I'm fine with what I have.
Okay. All right. So, Mohamed, any offers for our, number 3 pick?
As the assistant GM with Cyro for the Hornets, I think I agree with that sentiment. I think what they need is a ball dominant guy. And I don't think the trade-off of moving up a spot makes sense when, we know what it is that Philly needs, and, we'll just let the pieces fall down. And I think we're sure that the guy that we want is going to be available at 4. So
would you, since you both do manage the Wizards at number 6, is there any interest of moving 6 to 3 and maybe adding something to that? And Ersin, would you listen to that? Would you move down 3 spots, maybe our guy might still be on the board at number 6. Would you take, something like a future
I'm willing
pick?
to listen.
Kind of rather let things, I want to take the words he said earlier, the players trickle down to us instead of moving off of talent. And then if we do move off of talent, it's as a result of the picks that we acquired, so that we can
Exactly.
create opportunities to develop those players.
Okay, cool. Okay, so with the number 3 pick, Ersin, we're locking in Trey
Yeah,
Johnson.
we're locking in with Trey Johnson, man.
Okay, Trey Johnson, number 3 pick. Number 4, the Charlotte Hornets are on the board. Number 4 is Cyro. We might have tipped our hand a little bit too much by making Ace Bailey available with this pick, but okay, Cyro, you're on the board. Ersin, Mohamed, any offers you wanna make to Cyro before he makes his pick?
I think I'm good off players from the Hornets. I think with them, I understand kind of this two-headed horse right now, at least in the immediate, with Brandon Miller and LaMelo Ball. And, I think this team is just a matter of continuity. Like, they're a team that's injured. There's a little bit of concerns in terms of what the future looks like with that team, LaMelo. So for me, I think it's just best that, we kind of allow them to figure out what it is that they want.
I think Mohamed touched on it there, especially with a team like the Hornets, continuity with a coach in Charles Lee and Jeff Peterson, which as soon as Peterson was hired, you knew Charles Lee was going to be the head coach, as they both had ties to their Atlanta Hawks days from the Budenholzer era, which then makes me think if they're going to draft anybody, nothing against Ace Bailey. I really think Ace Bailey has the ability to be a great basketball player in this league. He's also very similar to another player we already have on our roster in Brandon Miller, which then would probably move Miller out of the two of them, or Bailey, to being a large 2 guard, and one of them has to play the 3, because I don't think either of them are really combo forwards right now. Like Miles Bridges is significantly thicker in terms of being another 6'7" wing forward. So if I took Bailey, I would now have Brandon Miller, Bridges, and Ace Bailey all on the same team, while also having Grant Williams, probably bringing back Trey Mann. We have Josh Okogie. So yeah, that's nice and dandy, but this is a team that 3 years now in a row, ever since moving off of Borrego, we haven't been competitive. Defense has been our weakest side of the ball. And I really need somebody who's just going to come in and be able to fit into a role and not really do too much. And to me, I think we saw Trey Mann. They went 16-25 with Trey Mann there. And they went, I think, 16-29 with Grant Williams on the roster, which, I mean, it's not great numbers, but it's way better than what they were without him, which, again, as you saw, VJ Edgecombe would be the guy I'd go here.
I've already clicked him.
Yeah,
I see exactly what you're putting down. I'm picking it up. I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it just works. He's gonna at least play defense, and that's what we need right now. We're trying to make a play-in push at the very least next year, and I can't take the time to develop Ace Bailey and hope that he'll catch up.
Okay. Going once, going twice. VJ Edgecombe, welcome to LaMelo Ball's nightmare. Okay, number 5. This is very easy for me. I am the Utah Jazz. I'm fielding offers for this 5th overall pick. I'm fielding offers for Lauri Markkanen. I'm looking at if anybody wants to look at anybody on my roster. I am very open. Any offers for number 5?
Okay, so if Lauri Markkanen is available, what is that like price tag looking like?
Well, I'm Danny Ainge, so 16 first-round picks.
Yeah, I know. So in the grand scheme of things, would an offer that revolves around...
First of all, which team are you negotiating for?
I'm the Hawks. I'm the Hawks right here.
Okay.
Because the Atlanta Hawks were in the Brandon Ingram sweepstakes. They basically were going to get Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram allegedly then opts to go to Toronto because Toronto offered a significantly larger, not significantly, but a larger extension. And it basically was obvious if they traded for Brandon Ingram, he's kind of be a rental until Jalen Johnson eventually surpassed him. And then they would probably trade him again. So he knew he had a better chance of having stability in Toronto. But as much as Terrence Mann worked out for the Hawks, that's $15.5 million that we probably don't want. So what is Lowry this year's at 30? I'm trying to, because I know they
43.
43. Yeah, jumped that much. Wow. Is the reason why I'm hesitant to fully go there because like if I do trade for Lowry Market and trading a Congo kind of bites me, but then you assume you draft somebody, but like just because I'd want a defender next to, yeah, but that's the offer. That's because that's the only tradable players I see on this team. Like Buffkin, Man, Okongu, that'd be the offer of players, and then this year's 13th.
13. Can you do 22 as well? And
No.
I can include 43.
I would. Don't you guys have the 20? What doesn't
We have
Utah
the 21st pick. We have the 21st pick. So
I would.
We can give you 43 and 53 for your 22, and we'll do the deal on this.
Man, I just think I'm giving up so much defense and that I need to keep that first round pick because then I would be able to maybe get a. No, I can't. Yeah, I would want to keep that first round pick because I would try to recoup the loss of a big man right there instead of because this is also a weak big man class in free agency. So I would be screwed big man wise.
Would you consider a future first lottery protected as opposed to the 22nd pick? I'm giving you an all-star who's going to shine, and I'm going to get cooked by the media, and I'm going to look like an idiot when he ends up becoming like, he's going to be an all-star next year by virtue of the fact that the NBA is swapping to international all-stars. So he's going to be an automatic all-star. He's going to average like 24 points per game with Trae Young. We used him inoptimally on purpose last year to lose games. He's still every bit the player that became an all-star 2 years ago. We adjusted his shot diet basically to make him less effective. Like, don't look at his last year's stats. I'm
going to have to withdraw the offer because I'm not an asset-rich team in Atlanta because we are still trying to fully recover from the DeJounte Murray trade.
How about this? Like, once you get to 13 and I see who's on the board and you see on the board, let's revisit this. Okay?
All right. Yeah, we can revisit it. Yeah.
Okay. If my guy's on the board at 13, I will happily revisit this with you. But if my guy's not on the board, I can't. So with the number 5 pick, I am going to pick Ace Bailey. I don't necessarily think he is the most NBA ready prospect. And that actually suits me really well because I have my eyes set on AJ DeBonsa next year. So I really don't mind. Number 6, the Washington Wizards are on the board. Cyro, it's you. And your assistant general manager is Mohamed.
And Mohamed, I do want to hear your feedback on this one.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people, obviously the hometown kid is Derek Queen, and the natural assumption would be Alex Sarr is the floor spacing defensive guy who might be a poor man's Jaren Jackson Jr. in the sense of a non-rebounding, shot blocking 4-5 who's more of a 4, and then you bring in more of a back to basket, good passing, questionable athleticism and length concerns in Derek Queen, or you can go Kaman Mawach, who is really just more of a rebounding, shot blocking big. But at the same time, I understand that, but then you also have Jeremiah Fears and I have a question. Is it Kasparis Yakachunas or Yakachonis?
Yakachonis.
The second one.
Yakachonis. Yes. Okay. Yakachonis. That's what I thought. Okay.
Yakachonis. Kasparis Yakachonis.
Kasparis Yakachonis. Or Jeremiah Fears, which I think Kasparis has the ability to play on or off ball, has, creation ability. While I think Fears, you're a bit more hamstrung into developing him as a guard because I don't think he's a lot more ball dominant than Kasparis. So what is your thoughts right here? Because I feel like as someone who grew up in the Baltimore suburbs and know a lot of Wizards fans, a lot of people are like divided if you go front court to find Sarr's pairing or do you go guard here where like you have obviously 2 choices or you still have Yagor.
For me, I think let's just get a chance to look at Washington's roster, right? In terms of like the shooting, especially with last season. I think when you look at a guy like Bub Carrington, a guy that he showed you that, what you can do on the ball in terms of, being a really strong shot creator, still concerned with him getting downhill in terms of his rim pressure. But I think he's also shown the ability that he doesn't necessarily need the ball in his hands to be an effective player. which potentially makes you think of a Jeremiah potential backcourt with him. And, I think if you go guard here, then you're definitely considering moving off of Poole 100% then. I think it just wouldn't make sense to kind of keep Poole long term, kind of just build around these two young guys. My concern would be, at least, I think when you're going Fears versus Queen versus the field, I think, with both these guys, they're very questionable as perimeter shot creators. And I think with Fears, do you worry, will he be able to kind of make his impetus on this team that, maybe necessarily is concerned from a shooting perspective, outside of a Corey Kispert, maybe a Keyshawn George? This team necessarily isn't like the hottest as a 3-point shooting team. And I think you need to worry, if you're going to go that direction, I think you need to have something tangible. And I think with a guy like Fears, you of course have that concern. As you mentioned, 6'4", not necessarily the greatest of finishers at the rim. He's somebody that does make it an emphasis to get downhill, which is really good to see. I think just the finishing is not as good. And, the guy like Queen, I think his skill set makes sense with a guy like Sar. It's just a matter of, do you want to go fit versus skill here? And I think with a team like Wizards, you're just a team that's really devoid of talent.
Is the other thing. Once we start talking about it, Queen can help alleviate the rebounding that Sar gives up. So that's how they can kind of be a yin-yang duo.
And actually, now that you mentioned that as well, I think some of the things that Sar does are very big man averse. He's not really necessarily the best screen setter. He's not, as you mentioned, not the best rebounder. So I think you can supplement that with a guy. Yeah, I think you can supplement that with a guy like Derek Queen, where if you maybe have gone the direction of a Kaman Malawak, a guy who, is 7'2", but not necessarily the strongest of rebounders, not the strongest of screen setters, but I think just for a guy that can make sense right now, it's a Derek Queen, at least for me. So I completely agree with what Cyro said.
Okay, New Orleans is on the clock. Ersin, you are on the clock, and the last pick, Derek Queen. I can hear the applause from all the Dunkin' Donuts staff in Washington. Their stock just went up. Their revenue just went up. Pizza sales just went up. It's great. Okay, New Orleans Pelicans on the board with number 7. Ersin, you know where you're going with this?
Yeah, I have ideas, man. And I thought about trading the pick. And if I look at what this team is right now, Trey Murphy is the future. That's number 1. He's ascending in the right direction, but he never really took that number 1 guy type of step. I think this year is going to be the year. Zion is the number 1 guy. He's been shown, how much can you rely on him?
Are you open to trading this pick?
That's the $1 million question.
Are you open to trading this? You're open?
Because they are forced to commit to Zion. And of course, everything can happen. If you play 70 games, they're going to win 45 of them. They're going to go to the playoffs.
Is there anything you're looking for, particularly in a trade? Is there a contract you're looking to offload? You're looking to offload CJ McCollum?
Flexibility.
Okay. Cyro, any offers for number 7? No? Mohamed, any offers for number 7?
Maybe not necessarily for Zion, but is Trey Murphy on the table? And I've been hearing his name be thrown up in like the last couple of days of potential movement with a guy like Trey Murphy, maybe a Herb Jones. What's the temperature like with your wings right now? Are you willing to kind of, if you're going to commit to Zion, keep the pieces around him?
The keepers.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Okay. I mean, the reported price for Trey Murphy was a playoff contributor, a young player, and multiple picks. That's a lot. And also kind of hilarious that they want a playoff contributor when they're not going to be in the playoffs for a really long time. But that's cool. DeJounte Murray, that's a tough contract right now. One of my favorite players. CJ McCollum, probably, something you want to move off of. I think you have to factor in also next year's draft being completely loaded and maybe wanting to bottom out a little bit. Herb Jones does not help you bottom out. Herb Jones helps you bottom up. This is just a winning player. So if I'm a team right now, I'm looking to trade you for Herb Jones. Now, among the teams that I manage that could be interested in Herb Jones, the Toronto Raptors are calling you for sure. 100% they're calling you. And they're offering you, what do you want, man? Like, what do you want for Herb Jones? I'm willing to give you Grady Dick. No problem. I'll be willing to give you a future first. No problem. I'll be willing to give you a salary filler like Ochai, but I'll be giving, how about this? Herb Jones for Grady Dick and Ochai Agbaji. Do you do it?
Nah, we can do something like this. We do 9 and Dick for 7.
Grossly underselling my 13th overall pick, who was just such an incredible shot maker and wore the greatest draft suit in NBA history. Come on, man. You got to give some points for Swagger. I feel like Swagger has to factor into your trade analysis like it has to. And
I think the Raptors are
marketability.
vulnerable,
All
man.
the jersey ops. All the jersey photo ops. Come on, man. Okay. So that
Come on, man.
okay.
I'm not an American, man. I know New Orleans. They're local, man. They don't care much about outside of their state. I think they shouldn't. They have
Okay.
their own culture. And honestly,
Okay.
I think the Raptors are much more vulnerable than they look, man. I think 9 and Dick for 7 is a good offer.
Nah. It's definitely not a good offer. I'm not moving up 2 spots in a relatively flat place. Okay. So who are you looking at? Is there anybody that you need my feedback on as your
You
assistant
already
general
touched
manager?
on it, man. The guard position is the biggest need. CJ McCollum is in his last year, undrafted free agent. He's going to be a free agent, unrestricted. And DeJounte Achilles injuries are tough, man. How's it going to look if he comes back? And how does he look if he comes back? He's
Okay.
going to be his old self. And I'm totally banking on the future here because they have the pieces. That's why I said Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, they're untouchable. They're untouchable.
Okay.
And I'm willing to wait on Zion. If we're going to take one more year of Zion, I'm going to solve the point guard issue that the Pelicans have. They don't have a true one. Of course, they want to build through skill, through wings. They need the rim pressure, man. They need the paint touches to really help the shooters find much more opportunity. I
Can I
think
guess where you're
Jeremiah
going with
Fierce is
this?
Jeremiah Fierce,
See,
man.
this is
my pick.
called being a visionary. Okay, I understand exactly where you're going with this. Okay.
Yeah, we know each other too much.
I support this. I support this pick very much as your assistant general
I think
manager.
the fit is just too good, man, for the Pelicans. But
Yeah,
with Brady Dick as an extra shooter, it would be nice, man, because I'm willing to bet on what the Nets are going to do. So,
I mean, just for the audience here, I think Jeremiah Fears is very horribly undersold as a shooter. I'm just gonna be real. Like, I think his form is very decent for a player who shot 28%. And again, these college seasons are very short. There are plenty of great shooters who've shot 32, 33% over a really like a 30 game sample size. That's pretty much the entire college season, right? Load was incredible, super young, for this draft class. And I swear to God, every time I watched him play, I was like, that's a future star. Now, I have no idea if he's actually going to be a future star, but it's a worthwhile gamble at this point. You are betting on like 2% all NBA upside here. And that's, it's not easy to come by in this draft. Okay, with the number 8 pick, we got the Brooklyn Nets. And Ersin, you're on the board for back-to-back picks. I don't know why I did that, but you are on the board with the Brooklyn Nets.
when I look at the Nets, they need everything. I mean, look at their team right now, where they're building through. What I believe for the Nets would be the best future is, Cam Thomas. He's a keeper. I think having such a dynamic ball and an interior scorer, you have to add to that. Have to add to his deficiencies.
Am I trying to understand this correctly? You're building around Cam Thomas?
I'm not building around Cam Thomas, but he's definitely the third, fourth option of the team, no doubt. But offensively, he's maybe the number 2 option. Of course, you have to keep the number 1 stay open because you want have the full potential, of course, of your team. But Cam Thomas is a keeper, man. I think a guy like him, in his archetype, is hard to go around, man.
Okay.
And even in the years that he competed, he's shown his skill set. And right now, it has less value because their team is horrible and they don't look like they're going to win in any amount of time. I think I'm going to swing with the fences here. Of course, they have 5 picks. Are they going to make all 4 first round picks in the second round? I don't know. But talking about trades is much better to do it later in the first round than with number 8. I think number 8 is going to be a keeper for them.
Interesting. Is there any interest in trading for number 8 that anyone wants to pitch? Ersin, he's a very tough negotiator. Treated Grady Dick like a second round pick.
I think I would like to trade, maybe move up 1 spot. Actually, I wouldn't want to move up 1 spot. You are 8. I would actually move from the 10th pick as the Rockets, if that's potential there.
Okay, what do you have in mind?
I would potentially see if, do you want to swap picks and then maybe add a player from my end, maybe
Cam Whitmore?
maybe that's a potential. I think Cam Whitmore would be a potential option there. I think when you think about what Brooklyn needs, as you mentioned, you're trying to not necessarily build around a guy like Cam Thomas, but, I think he evidently is one of your best offensive talents, a guy that can kind of just add scoring power. And I think with a guy like Cam Whitmore, he's somebody that kind of maybe needs a new reset in terms of a situation. He's a guy that could potentially be on the block, maybe a Tari Eason. Maybe that'd be my pick right there. Maybe 8 for 10 and a Cam Whitmore.
So I'm doing 10 for 8.
And
So
Cam
10 and
Whitmore.
Whitmore for 8, right? Well, I want, it's a good deal, man, but I want something more than that. Maybe add a second and we have a deal.
As
Future
your
second is good.
as your assistant general manager, I'm saying take this deal. But yeah, just undercutting your trade value there. I'm just like, take it, run. No, I'm not saying take it and run. Depends on who we're after. If I believe that my guy is going to be there at 10, then I'm doing this deal, no problem. Because
Nah, the
10
only
is a
reason
lower
why I asked for the
salary.
second, is Whitmore. Houston made it very clear, man, about how much is he part of their future. Not so much, I think.
So you think
I
they're
think 10
throwing
and 8
you
is,
you think
two picks
Mohammed's
is a
trying to
lot.
dupe us? You think Mohammed's trying to dupe us here? He's trying to give us some garbage player named Cam Whitmore who just fills up
Yeah, man, he
stats in
packaged
garbage
them
time.
quite well, man. But the packaging as well. It's all about what's in the box, man.
He's also extension eligible pretty soon. So if he explodes on my offensively depleted team, he could be in line for a pretty decent extension. Okay. I mean, Mohammed, you open to trading a second as well?
I mean, I have the 59th pick. I don't know how enticing that is. If that's something where, at 59, maybe at the back end of the class, as you mentioned, NIL, a lot of players going back. Maybe there might be a guy that slips, a guy that, you probably have seen in a workout that you might enjoy, but 59, I'm not sure how much that really floats your boat.
You're totally underselling the value of the 59th pick. You should be talking about Manu Ginobili being the 57th pick and how they can find the next Manu Ginobili 57 and how great,
There's potential. Aaron Wiggins saved basketball and he was 55th, so you're not far off there.
Think about all the undrafted gems, man. You can get them on your team. Ben Wallace.
You
Alex
could get
Caruso,
the next Bronny James Brooklyn.
You can get the next Lou Dort. Shit.
Literally.
There's potential.
The life in New York is expensive, man. We can always sell 59 to another team. So let's take 10 with more 59 for 8. I'm okay with that deal.
I can't believe that, it never in NBA history has a 59th pick ever held up a trade until now. But, leave it to Ersin. Okay. Perfect. Mohamed, you are now on the board with number 8.
And with that being said,
as the Houston Rockets.
Give me Conconnipple. I mean, when Ersin said a guy that can do everything, it's a guy named Conconnipple. That boy is white magic. That is a blue collar basketball player. And I think when I look at a guy in terms of Conconipple's profile, his strengths, of course, in terms of the shooting, again, a guy at 6'6", 6'7", very strong shooter, a guy that is a very, very underrated playmaker. Someone to me, when I look at this Houston team, especially in the playoffs this past season, you could see they struggled to put out, really good shooting lineups at times. Oftentimes there wasn't much spacing. And, I think when I look at this team, I think the future is a guy like Şengün. And when you're trying to build around him and, you have this kind of handling hub big, I think you've seen, kind of what this past season looked like with the burning pains of, trying to hope that Jalen Green gets there as not just as an overall player, but just as a scorer, as a playmaker. And I think that kind of ship has sailed, at least for a long-term extension in my eyes, to see this guy, kind of be the focal point of this team. And when I look at a guy like Conconnipple, you see last year they just drafted Reed Shepherd. He really struggled to get on the court. But I think when you look at a guy in Ime in terms of his focal point of what does he want in guys that can shoot the ball really well, guys that can defend at a high level. And I still have a lot of faith in a guy like Reed Shepherd, but I think the opportunity of pairing a guy like a Reed with a guy like Con that, are very multifaceted shooters that can offer you playmaking upside and can really space the floor without having the ball in their hands. I think that's going to offer you a crazy dimension in terms of shooting with your team. And of course, if they do commit with a guy like Fred VanVleet long-term, continue to build
you bring in the 50s back all by yourself.
I'm telling you, bro.
All by yourself. Plumbers and firemen, for real.
Blue collar basketball is back. We're bringing our 2s and 3s to look like accountants. So I'm telling you, man, give me Conconnipple at 8. I think he's a runaway pick. I think when you look at what he struggles with in terms of the defense, again, this morning, actually, surprisingly enough, his measurements and overall testing came back, and it was actually really strong in terms of like the 3-quarter agility test, which those are things I was kind of worried about in terms of his foot speed and just overall strides defensively. And, with a team like Houston, they're a very strong team, at least from the wing department as a defending team. So I think I feel really confident putting him next to guys that can really defend strongly, and then, of course, maximizing his skill sets, as a secondary creator, as an overall shooter, and just as a guy that, is a strong finisher with 2 feet at the rim. So, yeah, I mean, I think this is a runaway pick for me. I didn't think there was a possibility that he could probably be there at 10. And I think he was a guy that would have made so much sense for a team like Brooklyn. And, I think that 59 pick, I know I'm going to have to kind of give up a guy like Bronny away or the potential of getting somebody like that. So, you know what?
It's very interesting, Mohamed, because the only pick standing between you at 8 and you at 10 is the Toronto Raptors at 9. And that's me. And my pick could be projected from a million miles away, from a galaxy far, far away. You could have seen exactly the player I was going to go with. Unless Cooper Flagg himself had fallen down to number 9, there's absolutely no chance that I was going to go with somebody else. However, since you don't know that, you traded away assets to move. I'm just curious, Ersin, would you have picked Conconnable at 8? Now that we've already made this team?
Nah, for Brooklyn, no.
Okay,
I'm just looking to add as much talent as possible.
Yeah, Mohamed, you got hoodwinked because he would have actually been there at 10 for you.
I mean, I don't know.
No trade backs. No trade backs. You're now paying him more money, and you got rid of the valuable 59th overall pick. And
this explanation made sense.
This was a salary dump.
I gave up Manu Ginobili. It's over. I might as well leave this call.
You gave up Manu
Maybe
Ginobili,
I'm picking Bronny too, man. You never know.
You gave up Cam Whitmore, man. You got cooked. Okay, cool.
This is my thing. I think the selling point was that for the Toronto Raptors, Darko Milicic has definitely, or not Darko,
Darko Rajakovic. Don't. You're mixing up your Darkos, man.
How's that possible? How are you gonna explain that to me?
There are some Serbs here. We're very offended that you our incredible coach to our incredibly fallen. I will, I will disrupt this pod for a minute to just say I think Darko Milicic was a good player. Fuck it. Okay.
But what I was saying was,
he has a ring to show for. He has a ring on his farm, man. So.
Darko Milicic 1, Carmelo Anthony 0. That's the real tally. Okay, that's.
But when I was looking at Darko, he was mentioning how he was. I think it was last summer, or it might have been the beginning of the season. He was raving about how much he loved the guy in Desmond Bane, and a lot of the skill sets that he has in terms of the shooting, the secondary creation as a playmaker, and then what he's just doing in terms of his physical frame and just being a very stout defender. Yeah. And I, that was somebody that early on in this cycle I'd compared stylistically to.
You know who passed on Desmond Bane? The Toronto Raptors by 1 pick, and they picked Malachi Flynn because they have an aversion to wingspan deprived players. Like, I don't know what the hell it is about this team, but if you don't have a 3+ inch wingspan, like, they're not picking you. That's why I was so shocked by Grady Dick. I really was. I was like, what? +2 wingspan? Grady Dick? White guy? North American? What is going on? Masai lost his damn mind. No, look. Over the last few years, the Toronto Raptors have definitely prioritized playmaking. If you can't play you can't play. Basically, simple as that. It's a very read and react offense. A lot of decisions. 0.5 basketball. Need high IQ players. Now, I'm on the board as the Toronto Raptors. I'm shopping.
You don't think Masai Ujiri is just going to go with his NBA Africa Academy infatuation and take the widely, basically open secret? Come on. He told me when I asked him at G League Showcase a year ago, it was come on, we'll watch. But now I'm hearing, how'd you say, Mohamed? Malwatch? Malwatch? Yeah, that's what I heard. But when I asked him in person, he was like, Malwatch. So I have no idea.
I think a lot of people who have hard to pronounce names have a tendency to anglicize their names to make them easier to pronounce.
Oh, I believe that. Because when I first talked to him, he also speaks way more eloquently now because when he was there, he was playing as part of the NBA Africa Academy team against the G League Elite Camp, I think it was, or not Elite Camp, G League Ignite team. And yeah, he was, again, spoke a lot more clear when he was at Duke. And I bet you he probably, like you said, made his name easier to pronounce.
Okay. I hear you. Yeah. I mean, okay, I have a trade to ask for. Ersin, you have number 10 as the Brooklyn Nets. I would like your pick.
Okay.
I would like your pick. I'm sorry. So, what do you want for that pick? I'm not offering you number 9. I just want number 10, and I'm willing to give you stuff. I'm willing to take crap off your roster. I'm open to trading you first, future firsts, but I want that 10th overall pick. Give me your offer. Okay. Grady Dick is on the table. Let me tell you who's on the table. Okay, and this is like a poo-poo platter. Make your offer with the players that I have on available. RJ Barrett, Ochai Agbaji, Jakob Poeltl, Grady Dick, 2026 top 6 protected. Those are the things that I have on the board. I'm not obviously trading all of them for you, but some combination of that. Does that get me number 10?
Yeah, I'm trying to factor in the value of the cap as well, man. I'm doing you big favors here.
You're not
If
really
I
doing me big
say
favors.
I'm taking one of these guys, because if I look at the contract the Raptors had, yeah, it's not good, man.
I mean,
They don't have a lot of flexibility in terms of, let's say they move one guy, it saves them. They can invest that money maybe 2-3, and they have to extend some guys eventually if they make good decisions in the draft. And you're lucky that they didn't do that in the last, I think, 2 years.
mhm.
Let's say this one hits, yeah, man, I'm doing you favors. But let's say,
But I'm also giving you a very
RJ,
valuable.
I think RJ next year's pick, top 10 protected.
Okay.
I'm willing to take that, but I want Grady Dick as well.
No, that you will need to give me. I can give you Ochai. I can't give you Grady. Ochai shot like 42% from 3. I can't give you Grady, man. That's like, I invested a lottery pick in that dude. He has 2 more years under team control. I believe in him. He's 21 years old. Ochai Abaji shot 43% from 3. He is extension eligible next year. I think he could be a very valuable, and he was a former lottery pick as well, and a national champion with, with Kansas.
My alma mater. Rock Chalk, baby.
Okay, then let's do it like this. Ochai, that's fine, but I want some maybe some draft capital, some future. Maybe if I look at
you've already got my
2028.
Dude, you've already got my 2026 pick, top 10 protected, and I can guarantee you I'm making the playoffs. I'll write it in writing. I'm making the playoffs. I got Brandon Ingram, I got Scotty Barnes. I'm getting 2 top 10 picks. Dude, I'm making the playoffs. You're getting that pick next year, and it's probably going to be like 13th or 14th, 15th, 16th, something in there. So you're getting a very high value pick. My picks are valuable because I'm a trash team right now. So, like, the way I see it is I'm giving you, like, you're a draft analyst. You know the value of the 16th overall pick in next year's draft is pretty much close to the 10th overall pick in this year's draft. Next year's draft's loaded. It's close. It's close. It's close. And I'm giving you RJ as well.
We don't have a lot of rules in the NIL, man. And the team can pay $5 million, and my guy goes away. So
how are you matching
you're
salary?
The buyer here, so
hold on.
it's more.
I need to understand, how are you matching salary here?
Hey, that's a good one, man. Okay, what are you sending back?
Well, I mean, you're the team that has to send back. You've already told me you want RJ. I can give you the Lakers pick, the Lakers second round pick next year. If you just want to, pat yourself on the back and be like, oh my God, I fleeced this guy. Like, I can give you the Lakers second round pick next year. I have no idea how good that pick's going to be. And I can give you my 2026 first. If you're not willing to do that, then I'm, you know what? I gotta talk to whoever the hell has a number 11. Who has number 11?
Look at the Nets. Do they have to take salary back? Honestly.
You don't actually. Mohamed, number 11, Portland. What I have on the board. What I have on the board, is there a better offer? Like, I think I'm giving up way too much here. RJ was like a freaking 25-5 guy last year, and he's a former lottery pick. Like, what the hell? Oh, I'm giving up so much. I'm gonna get killed by my fan base.
We're on the 10th pick, right?
Yeah, we're technically on the 9th pick. I'm trying to shop for the 11th pick as well.
Okay. What would your offer be? I'm moving up a spot is definitely. Could be tooth and nail, but it might be.
I'm not moving 9. I'm not moving 9. I just want an additional. 10 I just want 10 and 11 before I pick my guy at 9.
Okay.
So I'm willing to give you future first. So 2026 top 6 protected or top 10 protected if you're willing to be nice to me. I'm willing to give you Ochai. I'm looking at Grady. If you want to do a straight up swap of Grady Dick for number 11, I'm open to that. If you want to, do RJ and, some sort of RJ Jeremy Grant type of swap, I take on more years. You get the younger player. I'm cool with that too. I can give you a future pick. You give me number 11, something like that. Is there any deal? I'm on the clock. I got 1 minute to make this pick. Someone make me an offer, 10 or 11.
I think I'm good off that deal. I think this team's already very young, so I don't think going any younger is maybe the route, and I think I need talent now. This team's all over the place. I need somebody right now, so I think I'm good off that deal.
I hate all of you very much.
Okay, are we still talking?
Yeah, we're still talking. Make me a deal that's
Okay.
fair. Stop trying to fleece me like you're Danny Ainge, on crack. Okay, like be
Let's make
reasonable
it,
here.
Let's make it this, man. I think top 10 protected is too much. It's me asking for too much. Just give me RJ, give
Mhm.
me Jacoby, and we make it the line.
No Jacoby. Jacoby's off the table. I did not mention him.
But
Jacoby's
he's not a high field guy though. He's not the playmaker that you maybe
Come
want.
on, man.
well, let's just say we'll work on it with him. We believe in him. How about RJ and Grady? How about RJ and Grady for number 10? You doing that?
Nah.
What? You
I
value
want,
Jacoby
I
more
want
than Grady?
some. I'm building for the future, man. That 2026 class is good. Let's do it like this, man. I think looking back, your
RJ in
offer was
26?
okay.
RJ in 26?
The top 10 protected next year, and OG. I'll take it.
Deal. Done. Okay. I'm gonna get killed by my own channel. They're gonna hate me for this. They're gonna say I overpaid. But I got back-to-back picks.
I think you got a quite good deal, man. You have the pieces in place, man. And
So
it's me,
number
it's
10
me getting something
now
extra
belongs.
for your cap.
Okay. Number 10 now belongs to the Toronto Raptors. Ochai Agbaji, 2026 top 10 protected, and RJ Barrett have gone to the Nets. With the number 9 overall pick, after much drama, I am taking Kaman Malawach at number 9.
Yeah. And I think it's gonna be we're gonna yell Kobe, but it's not the same type of Kobe, right?
And at number 10, I am taking Carter Bryant.
Yeah.
Wow, you cooked right there.
So I got Carter Bryant and I got Kaman
fantastic.
Malawach, and I traded away RJ Barrett and the 2026 top 10 protected. I'm good. Okay. Moving on to number 11, which currently belongs to
The Blazers, which would be me.
the Blazers, which is you.
Yeah.
And it's your only pick. Okay. Kasparis is on the board. Jace Richardson's on the board. Yegor Demon's on the board. CMB's on the board. Where are you going?
For me, I mean, with this Portland team, you see it's a very young but very athletic team. I think the direction of the individual pieces, last year we picked Donovan Clingan. He's shown a lot of value as, this defensive anchor. Of course, Tamani Kamari's been lights out this past season, and just in general as a defender. Danny Avdia, he's pretty much broke out this season, and I think he's going to have another stellar season next year. I think
Denny's so good. Denny is so good. Like, it's so obvious that he was so good when he was with the Wizards. If you're paying attention to the analytics, you're like, is this guy like one of the 55 best players?
They should have never. I mean, honestly, they should have never moved him on draft night because again, they did get their 3 guys, and because again, that Bob Carrington deal would have never happened had they.
Right.
But I think that's an instance where both teams win. But I think long term, I think Denny Avdia is going to be the better player of all the people involved in that trade. I think he's so good, and I think, as you mentioned, he's playing like a superstar on a team that really doesn't have one. And I think on this team, especially with a guy like Jeremy Grant, I think the long term with him is pretty much cooked there. And I think trying to find a guy in that 4 spot that can make a lot of sense in terms of a guy that fits their very fast-paced offense, teams that can really kill in transition and kind of like a play finish and the archetype. And I think with that, I'm going to be selecting Noah Singeh at 11. Singeh has been one of my favorite prospects in this entire class. I think somebody who is going to be the second youngest prospect in this class behind Cooper Flagg. You just measured in yesterday, 6'10", bare feet, somebody with, a 7'1" wingspan, 9'4" reach. I mean, he's somebody that is exceptional in terms of being a transition and just kind of like a run and gun style player. I think when you look at the kind of guys on this Portland team, having a guy like him that's very rangy, because at times he feels like a wing. He moves like a wing, very, very nimble on his feet. And I think having a guy like that paired alongside a Donovan Clingan will definitely open up your front court's defensive upside and just their overall ceiling of what they could do. And I think when you think about what would a defense look like when you have an anchor like Clingan and kind of just like a run and gun 6'10", 6'11-ish forward that just moves around, can still hang himself on the perimeter, can really work well as a weak side protector. And then having a guy like Tumani Kamara on the perimeter just wreaking havoc. So I think this team, it's a very young team, very athletic team. And I think that's kind of the style and the DNA of this team. And I think going a guy like a Singe who's extremely young, he's definitely growing in terms of as a creator on the ball. That's what you hope he grows into and develops that handle and improves his overall scoring, especially from the perimeter. I think this is a team that, might struggle again from shooting, but I think what they will just wreak havoc with you defensively and just, in transition and getting downhill. There's a lot to love with this team. And of course, hopefully Scoop Henderson taking another leap next season and kind of just getting more comfortable in the NBA, getting comfortable in his role. So I really like this direction that this team is going. And I think they hit it with the mark last year with a guy like Klingon. And I think going a guy like Singe to pair with him alongside him is going to make sense. So I'm going Noah Singe at 11.
Okay. Done deal. Noah Singe off the board. Number 12 on the board is the Chicago Bulls. Ersin, you're on the board. Okay. Where are you going with this one?
Hey man, I'm making deals, man. I barely picked the guy, so let's listen. What do you guys have? Offers for 12?
Does anyone have any offers for 12? I'm the New York Knicks. I would like to offer you pick 50 for number 12. Are you interested?
Your only pick.
We would also like a coach. If you have one available, we would really love to hear about it.
Yeah, you can talk to our GM. We will package him together with 12-50. No.
I'm looking at the teams that I'm looking at. Okay, so 12. Damn. I don't see an immediate deal for the teams that I manage. I unfortunately manage a lot of teams that just have second round picks.
Yeah.
So the only team that I can think of that can make a compelling offer to you is Oklahoma City. And I don't see any reason to get off of 15 and 24 to move up 3 spots. So I'm out on number 12. Cyro or Mohamed, do you want to make any picks for number 12? Pitches for number 12?
I think I'm good.
Okay. Ersin,
I'm good.
you have no
that's
offers. Okay.
I thought about this pick a lot because I think the Chicago pick is my favorite one in this class because they have so many directions that they can, man. And I think trading for Giddey was a good trade, despite what they gave up. He's a best fit for them. But he has to play like the guy that he was before he got all the, because before he got the bad reputation, put it like that. I think his aggressiveness to get downhill and combine a guy with that, with the similarities like that, not to compare white guy to white guy, but I would like the comparison, but Diego Demon, he's been compared to him. I think he fits everything what they need, man. Fits everything what they need. Plus size, skill, pure ball handler, another one.
You want to draft Diego Demon?
With advanced reach, yeah, man, I'm drafting Diego Demon. I'm not going to think much about this. I think if I look at their future, the 5 is going to be an issue, but they can invest in the future. They don't have to win right now. If Vooch is having his last year, maybe you can work something out if he has a good year. Maybe you can extend him, man.
It's locked
I
in.
thought to this about 12. The only decision I would make different, if there's Derek Queen was on the table, I would take Queen. Not any doubt.
Okay.
Yeah, man. But Mohamed knows his business. He took him at 6, so yeah, that leaves me with no option.
Yeah.
Then to go the Russian route, man. I'm not doing Russian roulette again, man, with all these trades. I'm just picking my guy left.
It's funny because I actually talked to a draft analyst the other day who had Derek Queen at 35. So I mean, it happens, right? When you're willing to be an independent thinker, depending on how you feel about rim protection for the big.
I think my top 5, man. 35 is crazy, man.
That's a free thinker right there.
Okay, so Diego Demon adds to the number of point guards. We just call them the Chicago guards at this point. It's all guards, all ball handlers. I mean, that's really the way the game is going right now, right?
Kobe White, Giddey, and then those are the 2 most vital players for them.
Matas Buzelis? Buzelis? You're not a
about
member
the
of
guards, man. I think drafting them in is doing him in favors, doing Buzelis favors. I think he fits this team too good, man.
Well, you better hope that Kasparis Yakuchonis, who unbelievably is still on the board, does not pop off and become an all-star at some point because you passed on the
Lithuanian. He's the team's president, right? The Lithuanian at the
yes, he is. I mean, you got a guy from you got it from Illinois, and your GM is Lithuanian, and you passed up on Kasparis Yakuchonis. This is going to be like Vlade passing on Luka, bro. Okay, no, it's not. It's like a Temu version of that exact same thing. Okay, so. The
anti-nepotism, man. Come on.
That's not nepotism. That's nationalism. Okay. So Atlanta Hawks on the board. Cyro, this is you.
Cedric Coward, baby. And the reason why for that is we're trying to make a playoff push. I want people to remember that Quinn Snyder, especially with Gordon Hayward, loves guys who can catch and shoot threes. Over the last 2 years, these guys shot almost 41% on 135 attempts from catch and shoot threes. I believe he's a career 38% from three. He has the best frame out of all wings available in this draft. 6'6" in shoes with a 7'2" wingspan, especially with a team that Trey Mann is someone they're probably going to look to move. They want to bring back Karis LeVert, but that might not be within the price range they run, especially that they have a soft mandate to be below the tax. And with Jalen Johnson being a guy that is going to be fine. He's already recovered from the shoulder injuries playing. So he fits as someone who's going to be able to day one contributor in terms of being able to play guard 2 through 4 and probably play the 2 or 3, even maybe some small ball situations if they try Jalen at the 5 down the road if he gets enough muscle. I think Cedric's a guy who can come in, play on or off the bench for this team and he's not an explosive athlete, a little bit of a below the rim finisher, but he did finish 70% at the rim over, I believe, the last 2 or 3 years. So this is a guy that I think is able to be a defender and come in regardless, be a role player who contribute day
Filling
one.
the Hunter position, right? With him.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No, you're good. With San Antonio, as I mentioned, I picked on Harper with the number 2 pick, and it never hurts to add more talent in a position, especially in the guard position. Especially with what we've seen this past season with a guy like De'Aaron Fox, of course, the Rookie of the Year, and Stephon Castle. Adding a guy like Dylan Harper makes so much sense in terms of just adding another stacked talent in their guard room. You hope, of course, Wembanyama can continue to be more healthier and just, hopefully this issue isn't something long term. But I think with this direction of this team, they're trying to be somebody that wants to contend long term. I think you have a lot of the young pieces. You have the, older rotational guys that make sense. Before I make this pick, does anybody want to talk trades at this 14th spot?
I will talk trades with you as the Raptors. I'll offer you Grady Dick. Straight swap.
I think I'm good on Dick. Yeah.
Nobody wants Dick. It's so unfortunate. He's such a talented player. He was the Gatorade National Player of the Year. Does that not move you at all? Okay.
I think with Grady Dick, you like the shooting upside with him as a wing. I think the issue is that you may feel like he might just be a stationary guy versus kind of the movement shooting, and what does the defense look like? I think with a team like this, defense is something that definitely
defense is abysmal. The defense is abysmal, but I will tell you that his shot creation went up several notches last year. If you watch like the first 20 games as opposed to like the last.
So yeah, really.
Yeah, I was about to say, watch the end of the season. It was horrendous shooting.
But,
20 something.
The first 2 months though, I was moved. I mean, they were saying something like second year resurgence from a guy like Grady Dick, but
he's kind of, he put on a lot of weight in the beginning of the year. And it was great, because he came in stronger and he was able to take those bumps in the lane and he was finishing much better. And he had the hardest shot diet probably of any player on this team other than Scotty Barnes. Like his role was so difficult. I personally, as the Raptors, I'm probably doing myself a disservice by trying to shop him around like this, but I'm just so worried about my defense right now. But given the fact that I got rid of RJ Barrett, I shouldn't be worried anymore. I can hide one defensive liability. My issue was playing 2 defensive liabilities together. So thanks to Ersin, I got rid of that defensive liability and I got 2 plus defenders, probably 2 of the 5 best defenders in this draft. And now I'm literally so greedy that I'm trying to get my hands on a 3rd defender to shore up my defense here. So that's why I'm just looking like, is there anything on the Raptors roster that currently exists that would move you for this 14th overall pick?
I think there's just like a lot of crossover with, some of the skill sets in your guard room, wing room versus my guard room and wing room. I think for us, the direction that I want to go is at least a 4 or 5 to pair alongside a guy like Wembanyama, and I don't think there's something that
you want Jakob Poeltl? Yeah, great.
He's good. I like what he can do. I think just for this particular team in San Antonio, I'm not necessarily sure I want to move off him. I think I'm a lot more sure with a guy that can get in the draft that probably is a much better defensive bet. So I think actually now that I consider that, I think I'm good off moving a guy like him. And with that, I'm probably going to go and select Colin Murray Boyles at 14 to pair alongside a guy like Wembanyama.
No. Damn it.
You're not going to take the top 3, top 5 defenders in this class and just put them on a team and get the All-NBA first team. We're not doing that. We're not letting you win like this.
I'm just mad because I really wanted him. I really wanted him in OKC, but I was also really worried because, I have a very questionable shooter coming in next year, Nikola Topic. who was my 12th overall pick last year, and I watched him in a gym, and he hit me with a couple of those balls, like side of my head. He just knocking me out, with the shooting form. It's not great. Okay. I'm working on it, but it's not great. So adding another non-shooter to that. I am the Oklahoma City Thunder. My assistant general manager, Cyro, do you have any thoughts on where we should go here? I'm thinking about a few guys. I'm thinking about the following names. I'm thinking about Nate Clifford. I'm thinking about Kasparis Yakuchonis.
I'd go, to be honest, big. You got to think Hardenstein's going to be someone that they're eventually going to have to move off of or just let walk in free agency just because they're not going to pay that.
He's on a contract for 3 years.
He has a team option in 2026 that they are more than likely going to decline or pick up and trade him. They can't pay him that when Caruso is going to be making 19.5, 40.8 from Shea that year. Chet will probably be in the first year of his extension. J-Dub will also be in the first year of his extension. You just can't have that. So that's where you probably want to draft the big to be your to be able to play alongside Chet, but also be able to back up Chet and back up Hardenstein. And that's where I look at a guy. You either want to decide between a Jean Beringer or I think Thomas Sorber is the best screener in the class. He has a 7'7" wingspan. He is a wide body. Like, you have to go around him. And that is a big thing why they brought in Hardenstein, is because Chet's still filling out his frame, but Chet will never be a wide body. You can always get skinny on Chet to get around him. But would you
consider Rasheer here?
I would
I
consider
understand.
Rasheer. I like Rasheer. I was about to say my third option was Rasheer because they need a floor spacing 4 who can play alongside Chet eventually, and eventually would allow them to move off of Kenrick and Aaron.
Yeah, I think Aaron's one of the best contracts in the league, and I don't think I'm going to find that type of value, especially with NIL deals going up. Likely,
yeah, I agree. Or Isaiah Joe,
right?
Somebody. I'm just saying, like, you have to think about this. You're going to have to start playing salary cap gymnastics. So you need to start thinking about whose contract's up next, whose contract are we going to flip, and who can replace who. And I think you need to look at high IQ guys who have feel, who are either going to be instinctual players in terms of being able to read and react to what's going on. And I think if you look at all their,
you know what sucks?
What
you're describing Jace Richardson.
Yeah, but I just think they have too many guards. And then you start going into the thing with, if you go Neek Clifford, I think Neek's a very similar player to Aaron Wiggins. And then like Aaron and him, and you have Kenrick Williams, and you have Isaiah Joe and Caruso and Lou Dort. And I think the position with the least amount of depth, it goes Chet, Hardenstein, Brandon Carlson. I mean, Jay Will too, but like that's not great that it's Jay. And Jay Will's probably leaving sooner rather than later because they're probably not going to be able to afford him if someone goes out in free agency, because Jay Will has a team option this year, but is expiring next year.
Any interest in Maxime Renault here, since you've really honed in and convinced me that I need to look at a big? Or is Thomas Sorber... is it just going to come down to Thomas Sorber versus Rasheer Fleming? And if I look at Rasheer Fleming, can you see a world in which he can play 5? Because I actually think the problem with Rasheer is that he's being marketed as a wing, and I think he's a big. His movement pattern suggests big. I think his shot form would concern me more as a wing than it would as a big, because typically bigs are a lot more open. They can trail the play a little bit better.
So he's
eyeing Rasheer. Yeah.
He's a combo 4 to me. I think his natural position is 4. I think he moonlights at the 3, and maybe he's 240. Like, he can moonlight. What his wingspan's? What, 7'5", I believe it is. So
yeah, 6'9",
yeah.
Okay,
so,
7'5", 7'6". Okay.
So I think it's. I mean, look, if you're playing him at center, it's again moonlighting. This guy's going to be playing center for 6 minutes a game.
What if I play him at the 4 with Chet at the 5, and I can go 5 out?
That's the dream.
That's something.
That's the dream.
Yeah.
That's the dream.
Okay, you've sold me. You know what? I love Thomas Sorber.
Yeah,
I do love Thomas Sorber, but there's something about bigs and foot injuries. Okay, we're picking Rasheer Fleming at number 15, the most thunder pick of all time, because we have a 3-year track record of actual development at St. Joe's. We have, late bloomer potential. We have positional versatility. We have actual outside shooting, and we satisfy potentially filling a real hole on our roster, which could become even more pressing with our small market status and, our contention window. And we get an older prospect who's young for his class, 21 years old, who can actually come in and is physically at least capable of getting on the court. I love this pick for the OKC Thunder, but that means that at number 16, we have Mohamed on the board.
And in this class, I think a guy that kind of has a great mix of both in terms of turnover efficiency and overall shot making profile. I think a guy like Jace Richardson makes perfect sense to think with a guy like Jace, the ability to be an efficient player with the ball in his hands. I think the off ball shooting really, really is strong. I think one of the best shot making and just overall efficiency seasons from a player in recent memory. And I think the playmaking upside with him is something that's really intriguing, something that you wouldn't have to demand maybe of a traditional guard or asking of him. And again, when you think about kind of roster construction, you can find ways to hide his deficiencies defensively. You can just put out so many jumbo lineups that, a guy like his size that could shoot the ball at an immaculate level. I think it goes without saying that, this would be a perfect fit for them, at least for Jace's regard. You need a guy that can shoot the ball well. You need a guy that's just very smart, high feel, low turnover efficiency.
He makes a lot of sense. In terms of fit, that's basically the only team that really fits. I think if he doesn't go there, it's an issue. And Cyro, man, it's a decent offer. But yeah, man, this guy is falling to my lap right now from Minnesota. I'm not going to overthink it. If I look at the Minnesota Wolves need is depth. I think that the 2-3, that's where they need some more depth. I think Terrence Shannon is going to enter a year with more responsibilities. I'm going to add to what they need, man. I'm going to take Nick Clifford without any doubt, man. I'm not listening to offers.
All right.
No offers. Damn. Okay. What's
done his fair share of trading at the beginning.
Entire episode, Cyro is going to be trying to offload Corey Kispert, and I'm trying to offload Grady Dick. Like, these are just the players that are just available, floating in the ether until someone takes them. Okay, so Nick Clifford with number 17 going to.
Yeah. Talking about the offer, it makes a lot of sense for Minnesota. But
You
again,
can just take
you're not even considering Thomas Sorber here, given that Naz Reid is floating into free agency and Rudy Gobert is old. You're not looking at it. I'm speaking as your assistant general manager, not as a rival general manager. No,
I like Rudy, man. I think Rudy is one of the guys that I rely on.
Well, it certainly makes one of us. Okay, cool. So number 18. The Washington Wizards are on the board. Cyro, just to you again.
This is what I wanted at 6, and I think Mohamed did the right thing to talk me out because I've done this every time in mocks that after basically after the Nets pick, or even the Bulls pick, if the Bulls don't go guard too, which is the only other team to really go guard, there's going to be one guy who free falls. It's either going to be Fears, it's either going to be Yakachonis, or it's going to be Demon. One of them will end up being drafted around this range because once the Pelicans, the Nets, who else is at the top of the draft? We could say that would take a guard. The Spurs would be one. Technically, the Hornets could maybe. Like, all the teams that would have taken a guard, they're gone. So then you come up to here where it's the Wizards are the first team and then the Nets. The Wizards and the Nets are the first team after the 12th pick, and even really after the Nets' first pick to be in the market for a guard. So if this does happen, Yakachonis wouldn't go past the Wizards right here. They need a lead ball handler, and he's perfect with Bob Carrington. And imagine Wally, Carrington, and Yakachonis, which now you have 6'6", 6'6", 6'7", and just lengthening Keyshawn George, Alex R. This is a long team, and especially being guys from OKC running the show, from the coaching staff to the front office, they prioritize positional length and versatility, and that just fills it to a T.
Crazy that you could have got him at 6, and like I said, someone's gonna fall. I think, as you mentioned, with the guys that are available at that spot.
Is there anyone that you're looking at, Mohamed, as the assistant general manager that you think? I mean, honestly, you guys cooked. Like, I can't believe you got Derek Queen and Kasparas Yakachonis at 6 and 18. Like, I can guarantee you, Bleacher Report is giving you guys an A+ for your draft grade, 100%. Like, you can be like, "Oh, these guys cooked. They got 2 lottery picks." Yeah,
I mean, I think like that at some point you start to see a guy fall that the value at 18 is it's too much. And with a guy like Kasparas, like, I think he's a player that can return you back top 10 value 100%. And I think it goes without saying, like, he makes so much sense on this team. You don't have to require Bob Carrington to be on the ball as much, but it's also the idea that it gives your roster a lot more variance in terms of what kind of guard lineups you can put out. You have a lot of different handlers within your wings and your guards. And I think had Kasparas not been a strong shooter in terms of the catch and shoots and the pull up things, I'd be a lot more concerned versus picking at him here. But he is a good shooter relative to the pull up stuff and playing off ball. So it makes so much sense. And I think just even the last two classes, like this class and the last class, you could make just a straight five-man lineup just of guys that we've just selected as right now with Kasparas and Queen, and then with the three guys from last year. So I think you see the clear direction that they're going with their youth and guys that can just come in and make a value right away. Of course, the roster from a totality perspective was poor, but I think the dying light was the guys that you're going to get from this class and previous. So I think you love the direction that they're going. And I mean, if you leave with a Queen and Kasparas with 16 and 8, or 6 and 18, that's a home run. That's a home run with anybody. I think you could have got either at 6, and to get one at 18 is special. So I love it.
Yeah, and I think at 18 you're gonna have the choice of either Fears, Kasparas, or even Demon in real life potentially. I mean, worst case it's Traore, but that's still like decent, value at 18. And especially this is one stat that I like that I saw was according to Synergy, out of the DHOs when attacking the rim, getting downhill, Kasparas scored 65%. Field goal percentage on those opportunities. So he's actually way better than people think at like getting to the rim and getting to that second level when attacking the basket as a dribble penetrator. It's not just 3-point shooting and just creating off-lie dribbles.
With number 19, the Brooklyn Nets are on the board for the first of 5 picks remaining in this draft. You have 19, 26, 27, 36, and apparently 59 because you valued it so much. Okay. Who are you going with number 19? And are there any trades for this? Are there any trades for this? Anyone that's really like dying to make a trade for someone who's available here?
Yeah, feel free to make a trade.
Okay, let's revisit right here. Let me just make sure if there's
not Corey Kasper. Come on.
You don't want Corey Kasper? That's like I was gonna say right here. I was gonna offer to take some contract, but you don't have all your bad contracts came off. But yeah, so never mind. I would have, even though Corey Kasper's on a great contract and had a great year.
Yeah.
The player on your team that I really like is Day'Ron Sharp, but he's available via free agency. Not that you'll be able to get him. I don't know, man. I'm looking at the teams that I manage, and I'm looking at the player who's on the board that I really like right now, and I'm thinking, as the OKC Thunder, I would like to move up from 24 to 19. I don't know what it would take off my roster for me to move up from 24 to 19. I would like to give you a flyer of Ousmane Dieng and number 24 for number 19.
Honestly, I already took 3 players, and I'm looking for future assets. And your team is stacked with future assets. That's the only part where I'm willing to talk.
I have Philly's pick next year, protected 1 through 4. I have Utah's pick next year, protected 1 through 8. I have a swap, 27 swap with LA. I have a 1 through 5 protected 2027 Denver pick. What are you looking at?
What's your offer, man?
I can give you.
What does AJ Johnson and Sadiq Bey sound like? He gets a reclamation project and he gets last year's for 19, yeah?
I'm not going to take that deal.
I'll give you pick 24, and I'll give you 2027 Denver 1 through 5 for 19 and 36.
Okay, so you're giving me
24, and I'll give you a Denver first. So you're getting 2 firsts for 19. So I'm moving up 5 spots and 36. So I'm taking one of your second round picks. I don't think you're going to pick players 26, 27, 36, and 59. Like, that's a lot of roster spots. Those are going to be 2-way contracts. So I'm taking one second round pick off your table, which is 36, and I'm taking 19, and you're moving back 5 spots to number 24, and I'm giving you Denver's 2027 first round pick, protected 1 through 5. And Denver could easily be a lottery team by that point. Their contracts age out very poorly. It could be a lottery pick in 2027.
Okay. If we do it like this, I give you 26, 27, 36.
I don't want
I'm
26,
going
27.
59 as well.
Whoa. You're not giving me 19? That's the only reason I'm telling you is I want 19. I don't
You
need
wanna move
26
up,
and
yeah?
27 because I already have 24. So 19 has to be included in any deal we do.
Nah, because one of the reasons I'm not gonna move up is because you're gonna take the guy I want. Your
Are
positional
you
need is what I'm gonna take here and there.
are you willing
I'm
to?
good. I'm good on the pick, man.
Fuck. Okay. All right. Go ahead. Make your pick. Unless there's any more offers.
Because there are more hunters for this particular player, and it's a big risk to trade back.
Okay.
That's
Cool.
why I'm keeping this pick while I'm thinking about it. And if I look at the Hawks and at the Pacers, I think
Mhm.
the Thunder, and I'm looking at the same situation.
Who are you picking?
Taking Thomas Sorber with 19, man.
Yeah, that's who I wanted. Fuck. It's exactly who I wanted,
I'm not
man.
gonna trade back. Yeah, I'm not gonna trade back. And the Nets are perfect for him. He has, the injury. He can take his time, and they can give him time via the G League.
He's
at least.
relatively healthy.
So,
He's relatively healthy already. Okay. Thomas Sorber,
yeah, I
Georgetown
would hope for this
Koya.
one because in terms of talent, that's not worth 19, man. That's worth a lot more.
The 20th pick is going to the Miami Heat. Cyro, you're on the board.
And you want to wonder if they would go with a Liam McNeely right here, a guy who did shoot 36% on catch and shoots. I believe, 43% on unguarded threes. So that is a possibility right there. And I think that's like one that really helps them. But I really think they need a point guard as someone who goes, covers the Heat and is been there. And the biggest complaint with us and the other media members is that there isn't really a true point guard there. Nolan Traore is a really good facilitating out of the pick and roll, had a really good strong end of the year. Shooting wise, is there a little bit of concern about the youth? And that's where, do you go this high with Walter Clayton Jr., especially with his 3-point shooting and kind of like his bravado? I think is very something that the Heat would like, is because he could play alongside Tyler Hero. He could play alongside Jaime Jaquez if they keep him. And for a team that has playoff expectations, I don't think they want somebody waiting or somebody that's agreeing around the ears. And that's why if Clifford's here, I think Clifford's the no-brain pick for the Heat in real life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go Walter Clayton right here because I think he's a guy who can play the 1 or the 2. He can kind of be like a Patty Mills for them, especially off the bench, and be a spot starter if anybody gets hurt. I think he's the most win now, help a team like the Heat that actually believe that they can be a top 6 seed, regardless if they make a big trade or not this offseason. Sorry.
I'm curious if Davion Mitchell being there swings you at all in terms of that being a good development guard behind or ahead of Nolan Traore to really help him. I feel like Davion had a really positive impact on Jamal Shed in Toronto, and seems like a really team first guy. I don't know. I think that because Davion's such a hard worker, because he's that high motor type of defender, and Nolan Traore really the big gap is he doesn't defend really well. I wonder if that could just be one of those things where you say, hey, he's 18, 19 years old, learning behind this super gritty point guard might be the perfect influence on this guy because he's so talented. I don't know. That's just me throwing this out there. But yeah.
Davion might not be there. That's the whole thing is Davion, I think they want to keep Davion, but he might just be too expensive and they might have to sign and trade him somewhere. What
do you think the next contract's going to look like?
Probably the full mid-level exception.
Holy shit. I was so annoyed when people in Toronto were saying that he was going to sign for like $10 to $12 million on their next deal. I'm like, bro, this guy's going to be in China next year based on how he's playing right now.
Yeah.
I was so sure. To start the season, he was horrible, to be clear.
Oh,
and he was shooting 27% from 3.
Different offense. You guys had a lot.
Yeah. He
Like
turned it
him
around.
and
But he
well,
turned
the
it
whole
around in his
thing.
last few months here too. He
Mike
was great.
Brown, though, and Eric Spoelstra run a lot of DHOs. Like Domantas Sabonis and Bam Adebayo run a lot of DHOs, especially off their hips. So I literally asked Davion this, and he said, like, coming to Miami, he's like, I played this way. He's like, I played this way in college. I played this way in Sacramento. He kind of alluded he did not like his time in Toronto, and that Darko's system was not for him because it was a lot of open play, like open court play in the half court, not as many ball, like a lot more ball screens, but not as many DHOs or playing off of, basically off curls or off of screens in the same way. So he just basically said the way they play on the wings and on the perimeter, it was a lot more conducive to his style of play in Miami than it was in Toronto. And it was like Toronto is just not how he played at all.
I agree. I think Toronto really helped him in development terms because I think, like, again, the bridge between his breakout really in Miami and his struggle where he was basically salary dumped from Sacramento is the few months that he spent with Darko. And I think Darko is just this incredible development coach. And I think he poured a lot into Davion. So I understand like the way they used Davion early. I was like, why would you ever do it like this? But I think it was partially because the Raptors were not interested in winning basketball games. They had no real benefit in terms of putting players in positions to succeed. Like they were not interested in that. Like Scotty Barnes, you want to take logo threes? Go right ahead. Do what you want to do. Jakob Poeltl, you want to take corner threes off the backboard? Go ahead. Do what you do your worst. So it was all about development. And I think Davion may not be seeing the forest from the trees. Like I think when he looks back on his career, he'll be like, that was a pretty good 4 months that I spent in Toronto. It really helped me out as a basketball player. But anyways, okay, cool. We're going with Walter Clayton. Am I locking that in? Walter Clayton to the Miami Heat?
Yeah.
Okay. Walter Clayton going to the Miami Heat with the 21st pick. It is the Utah Jazz, and this is me. And
I'll offer you Corey Kispert for your pick, and you send me a contract, a salary dump if you're looking. But all your contracts are expiring too that I just checked. So never mind. I mean, I'll take Svi Mikhailu if you want to get rid of him.
Svi Mikhailu. No. I'm good off that. Okay, I'm gonna consult here as the Utah Jazz with you, Cyro, as my assistant general manager. Who are you feeling here?
Utah. I'm
looking at Liam McNeely. Liam's still on the board, right? Yeah, Liam McNeely's on the board. Asa Newell is on the board. I like Nolan Priori here.
I was going to say Asa Newell because Walker Kessler is expected to be, traded eventually. We took with our earlier pick, what was it, Ace Bailey, right? That fell to us.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we don't know what's going to happen with Taylor Hendricks if he's ever going to fulfill that. John Collins isn't expiring. Your only backup big man on this roster is Filipowski, and I think
Newell. How do you feel about Isaiah Collier? Is he stamped for the future?
I mean, he had the value. You drafted him at 29, which was like great value for a player of his caliber. I think it became low risk, decent reward if it works out. He had a really solid end to the year. I think he averaged 19-7, something like that. The last month or so of the season, it was actually a really strong season end. He's a weird point guard. Like the only other point guard I've ever seen play like him is kind of like a Baron Davis, like that 6'4" thick guard who isn't like a true point guard, but not true point. He isn't like technically a true point guard, but isn't a true shooter. But it will bomb threes, can get to the rack. There isn't a good guard right here besides Traore, which
I'll tell you some players that I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about Noah Pendo.
I like that.
I'm thinking about Asa Newell. I'm thinking about Ryan Kalkbrenner.
I just think Newell's the highest potential guy left on this board, where he's a little bit of a tweener, but I think his best value is at the 5 because he can guard probably.
Do you find that there's any overlap here with Taylor Hendricks?
No, because Taylor Hendricks, you're hoping that he was going to develop into a smaller Jonathan Isaac type player who was going to be a multi-positional defender, but more of a combo forward than anything, who could maybe get small ball 5 lineups when you were trying to be a transition heavy team. I just don't know where he's going to be after a freak injury like that, where his leg snapped up all the way to here. So I
Any Wolf thoughts here, or is there just no
You're-
love for Danny Wolf?
you're just creating a defensive liability when the one defender, Walker Kessler, at the front court. I just don't think you have a front court depth at this point. You have Walker Kessler and Kyle Filipowski. Filipowski's not a backup 5; he's a 4. Then you have John Collins, who's kind of a switch big, but like he's again more of a 4. You don't have a backup
What about
center.
What about Joanne Behringer?
Oh, but that's the thing. Who I think Newell has a higher upside than Jean
Okay.
Beringer. So that's the whole other thing. Is I think I really like Jean Beringer, and I think if you're like the Pacers, that's a great value pick for you. But like if you're the Jazz that you're still tanking, I'm like take the upside guy, and that's Newell, who could maybe be something along the lines of a Nick Claxton if it all panned well.
Okay,
He's a little stiffer.
Okay, I'm a great general manager because I let my assistant general manager make this pick. In a lot of ways, you know, it's a good idea to lean on expert analysis. Okay, so I am going to go with Asa Newell, best player available on the board at 21 with the 22nd pick. The Atlanta Hawks are once again on the board. Cyro, this is on you. 22nd. Who you taking? And if at some point you need to trade with yourself, you'll have to trade with Mohamed.
I know, and like this is actually where I think the Wizards would, not the Wizards, but like actually, yeah, like the Wizards and the Hawks could do a deal.
We're still all here.
Okay, yeah, I just saw everyone. Yeah, I just saw everyone disappear, so I just got so thrown. But no, this is where if the Hawks offered Terrence Mann in this pick to the Wizards for Corey Kispert, I actually could see that being realistic because then the Hawks save money and they get themselves by like almost $2 million, and they get a descending contract at a player positional need. Now they did just draft Cedric Coward, but again, they're going wing heavy with the way they're building this. A bunch of former Spurs executives over there, and a bunch and Ansi Sala. And Bryson Graham is the new general manager. He drafted Herb Jones and Trey Murphy III. So you start to look at the teams or the players available because you probably want to think, you know what? I go Liam McNeely here. You wouldn't do the trade if McNeely's on the board. McNeely is a guy who's a little bit of a point forward. He fills this positional need. He could be a big 2 guard or he could be a 3. He has the same positional size as Corey Kispert, and the Wizards, for example, played Corey Kispert, I think almost 1,000 minutes this year at the 4. So I think if you look at that,
would you consider Drake Powell here? Again, I'm not your assistant general manager. Mohamed is, so I don't know why I keep stepping in there. Mohamed, you have any thoughts on Liam McNeely here?
If they went young guy, I think the only young guy is Jean Beringer to be a center by committee with Onyeka Okongwu and then whoever they bring in free agency. I just say, again, this is a team trying to make the playoffs. Like Trae Young has said he wants to win. Quinn Snyder was brought in to win. He's not trying to rebuild. They're not like the last year and a half was the developmental years. They're trying to make this jump. Like, so I think you got to go with a guy who's going to help now.
Yeah, I think my only issue, because I do have some gripes with a guy like McNeely where, you know, outside of the shooting, what does he provide to you at an NBA level? And I think when you look at this Atlanta Hawks team, as you mentioned, with a guy like Trae Young, he's a guy that wants to win now. So, I mean, if you look at this roster with Jalen Johnson, Zachary Reese-Shea, Dyson Daniels, there's not really like that second creator that they have outside on the perimeter with a guy like Trae. And I think adding a guy like McNeely, who does a lot of great things in terms of the spot-up shooting, but, you know, he's 6'7", not necessarily the best athlete. So, you know, of course, he's not an above-the-rim finisher. He's not a guy that can, you know, be a high-level defender. I think something that you worry is with this Atlanta team, you know, they're going to have a lot of great defending lineups that they can put out. But, you know, in terms of the offense, what does it look like when Trae Young's off the floor? You know, a guy like Kobe Buffkin, he's only played like 25% of his games in the first 2 years. So, you know, he's somebody that they're probably relying on heavy to come in and be, you know, an important guard in rotation. But even then, I feel like they need somebody that can really be a scoring guard or just a scoring option. And I think with a guy like Liam McNeely, he's somebody that you worry, you know, if the shooting is not there, what does he do? You know, this past season with UConn, you know, you're supposed to take that leap alongside a guy like Caravan. And, you know, I think there's times where he was very up and down in his offense, and he's not necessarily the best in terms of creating his own offense, you know, being an advantage creator, somebody getting downhill. So you just worry with this Atlanta team, if they are trying to be in a win now mode, what kind of guy can they kind of supplement with a guy like Trae Young to necessarily be like a secondary scorer. You know, in previous, I've probably looked at maybe looking at like Will Riley, or maybe you pairing them with a guard with this guy. I think with Drake Powell, he's somebody that is a very upside heavy player. You know, he's somebody that has a high level potential, but maybe he's very raw at the moment. But I think again, another guy that you could add defensively that would, you know, be really strong, very above the athlete, strong shooting, upside guy. It's just a matter of if you can kind of put all the pieces together. But yeah, I think if you can add a guy that can kind of immediately shoot, that'd be really important. I think there was some woes with Atlanta last season in terms of the shooting. It was very up and down. And then, you know, as the back end of the season, you saw they were really struggling from a shooting perspective.
So like Liam McNeely, 36% on catch and shoot threes this past year on 125 attempts, I believe. 40% on or 43% on unguarded threes this past year. He's a guy who played with a bum ankle all year. Like he had a grade 3 sprained ankle and played on it all year. So he's a guy who was on Montverde, and he was probably the fourth best player on that Montverde Academy team. I think one thing with Hugo Gonzalez, was a huge, big fan of his coming out in this draft process back when he was like 16, 17 years old. He was arguably heralded as the next great Spanish basketball player. The problem with him is, especially when he tries to like play on offense, he's a very turnover guy. He's averaged 3.6 turnovers per game in the U18 European Championships, where he was a lead ball handler. And he kind of plays a bit out of control in those attempts. And then in international competitions, he shot 25% on 96 three-point attempts. This year, he shot 28% from three. And I believe shooting is the easiest thing to fix, and that defense is the hardest thing to teach, because it's an ability that you are born with, and it's not something you innately can just develop. But at times he is a little bit over aggressive. And I think the other thing is Real Madrid's scheme isn't ideal for a guy like Hugo Gonzalez. I think he has the attitude and the aggressiveness and the competitiveness with him. And I really think his value is, late first. But again, with a team like Quinn Snyder, I think you want, and with big questions with, is George Niang going to be flipped? Are they going to be able to bring back Karis LeVert? They just need shooters and guys who are going to play within a team style. And I think with a guy like Liam McNeely, you don't need him to do too much. And I really think his comp is, and again, I don't like doing white guy to white guy, but it is like a Corey Kesper, which I think if you can just have a guy who can shoot threes, swing the ball around, and be able to play the three, but also have the ability to be a jumbo two, especially that's kind of what they're doing down there in Atlanta, that they just want guys who are 6'7", 6'6", can play basically three wings at a time next to Trae Young, while then just having a transition or a rim running big. The only other guy I would go if they went young is Jean Berger, but I just don't think they have time to wait for anyone to develop. So I think they just want guys to go. And I think Noah Penda is the only, I think a young guy like Noah Penda who is strong, can play the combo forward position. I'm just thinking if you just look at their wing and guard depth, Garrison Matthews is gone. I think they're going to go point guard in free agency like a Corey Joseph, because they don't want to whiff on another guard and Kobe Buffkin's only played 27 games in 2 years. So you want, and V Crazy is nice and he's a great defensive guy, but he's more of a swing man. So I think that's just I go McNeely right there, just because he gives us more wing depth and positional flexibility.
Is there a way that you can have another handler, somebody that's really comfortable with the ball? And I look at a guy like Wolf. He feels like a 7-foot guard at times when he's running this offense for Michigan. And sometimes the worry is that when you see a guy in college, that the context that they're in is that going to be the same context in the league. And I think for what he was thrown into Michigan relative to playing as a forward next to a guy like Golden, another 7-footer, is he going to be a guy that he needs to have the ball in his hands to be a successful player? I think what you can see is he has the floor spacing, he has the connectivity. I think this is really important with bigs. I think I've started to appreciate passing more on bigs, where, as we mentioned with the playoffs, these teams are very high potent offenses. Of course, defense is extremely important, but I think having a big that can be very multifaceted outside of the technical, just the rebounding, the rim protection, just the interior scoring. What more can you do? And I think what Danny Wolf kind of encompasses all of that. Of course, there is the athletic limitations, but when you just have so many high flyers around you, I think you can kind of hide those weaknesses from an athletic standpoint.
Number 24, the other team in the NBA Finals, and that is my beloved Oklahoma City Thunder. And there's a lot of options for us on the board. Cyro, you're my assistant general manager. I leaned on you heavily in the last one. I'll tell you who I'm looking at here. I'm looking at Joan Berenger. I'm looking at Drake Powell. I'm looking at Nolan Traore. Although I worry about, like how many, is he going to be G League bound if I take him, because I got to implement also another guard in Nikola Topic. And I'll also look at Hugo Gonzalez here, Ben Seraph. Are there any other players that I should be considering here, given where we are in the draft?
No, I think
What
again,
about
this
Ryan
is.
Cockbrenner?
I think again, they're at a luxury to take a swing on upside if they
Okay.
wanted to. And the guy you said, Drake Powell, I think he's a guy, can be, obviously his number one skill is defense. Freak athlete, he's going to jump out the gym, but you're at a position to take a swing on a player. And I think getting a guy like Drake Powell, which we discussed earlier, they're going to have to start making decisions on contracts down the road. Drake Powell is somebody who could eventually give them the flexibility to make a decision, because the whole idea is that he can be arguably one of the best 3-and-D players in this draft process or draft class if his potential pans out with some passing and decision-making ability. So he was the best defender on North Carolina last year.
So I'll say my thought process on this. I'll also consider Will Riley here, but a player that I'm looking at from a perspective of, I don't have a lot of guards who can create their own shot. I just don't have a lot of players who can get their own. I have a lot of catch and shoot players or very incomplete drivers. I have a lot of players who can use a ball screen but don't necessarily have the shiftiness. I mean, obviously I would have loved a Jeremiah Fears or someone in this draft. I think Nikola Topic does a lot of that shot creation for me. So by going Drake Powell here, I'm really banking on Nikola Topic being able to do a lot of that stuff for my bench next year.
AJ Mitchell too, don't forget him.
That too. But I'm really looking at Joe. I'm wondering, am I going to regret passing on Hugo Gonzalez here? Do you think I will?
I mean, this is the other thing with Hugo. I think Hugo, Will, and Drake are the three guys that they probably, or in also Jean Berger. But I think we took Rasheer, so then going back to back front court player, even though like Rasheer's more of a combo forward. I really like the idea, because are they going to pay Lou Dort down the road, or will he become trade eligible?
Sure.
Isaiah Joe, Kenrick Williams. So, and I think like AJ Mitchell, Topage, Cason Wallace, Shea and J-Dub, they all kind of take turns being, point guard, depending on the lineups that they're running.
Right.
As they don't really have a true traditional point. That's where I think, and especially with Ousmane Dieng probably going to get roster crunch this offseason, and they're probably going to move off of him.
Right.
I think, I think Drake Powell, Hugo Gonzalez, or Will Riley, Hugo and Drake make more sense because of their defense. Would allow you then down the road, are we going to pay Lou Dort $25 million a year if that's what he's going for? Or do we just keep one of these young guys we just drafted and an Aaron Wiggins, and then we trade Lou Dort and we keep Caruso? You know what I'm saying? Because we already paid Caruso. So that's kind of how I'm seeing it, is like, which one is going to be able to, kind of like Tetris, how are we going to fit this in?
I get it. Yeah. I feel like there's players with a tremendous amount of upside, and I'm banking on something that I didn't really see a lot of last year in Drake Powell in a very low usage role with UNC, but I don't necessarily think he was in the right context. And my culture at this team is very selfless, and I think he fits into that. And we like to play two-way, and he fits into that. And
high
there's
IQ.
Super high IQ, good athlete, and then of course it does help to have players he can directly learn from who fit his archetype already on the team. He has like the best versions of himself are already on my team. So I think Drake Powell, you're cooking with that pick. So let's go with Drake Powell. And I'm just going to pray that, I don't regret that. Okay. Number 25. This is the Orlando Magic. And the Orlando Magic are being general managered by Mohamed.
That Corey Kesper deal still stands with the 25th pick.
I love this move of Corey Kispert.
Cyro is like single-handedly ruining the trade value of Corey Kispert. Like it's just like when you want a Kispert with that. Like I feel like Cyro wants to like work at McDonald's and just be like, hey, by the way,
I did
wanna
work at McDonald's.
I feel like if you were working at McDonald's right now, you'd be offering people a Corey Kispert with their fries. It's like a side ad. Like, do you want a Corey Kispert?
I mean, Corey Kispert's agent. I mean, that's a potential role. Maybe add to his PR team. That'd be a really good role, I think, right there. And for me, I think something important is you already know the defense that you're getting with guys like Jalen Suggs, the two forwards, and Paolo and Franz, and of course what you already have with your bigs in terms of Goga Bidatse, Wendell Carter Jr., Jonathan Isaac. I think one of the biggest things for me is trying to get a guy that can kind of come in, be like this prototypical two-way wing, come in and just be somebody that additionally adds to their defense, off-ball scoring, and just another toolsy wing that they can add. For me, I think that's a guy like Hugo Gonzalez, where I think this makes a lot of sense for him. Last year they had selected Tristan Silva, which I think, at 6'9", he makes a lot more sense as maybe like another prototypical wing, maybe more forward-oriented versus, what I would want to look for in a guy like Hugo, who's more wing-oriented, could offer some upside as a two. And I think when you look at what their current roster building is, I think a lot of the size is more on the front court end where, maybe in the back court they really lack in size, maybe outside of an Anthony Black. But I think in terms of wings, I think he'd come in right away and be that kind of guy where I probably like him more than a Caleb Houston or maybe a Tristan DeSilva long term from just like a tools upside perspective and what he can offer you if he hits his highest outcome. But yeah, I really do like a guy like Hugo. And again, a lot of this is very Priors tape based versus maybe what I've seen at Madrid. But even then, I think what you see in a guy who's 6'8", 6'11" wingspan that can really be very fluid as a defender, somebody that can offer you the off-ball scoring, the tools. I think that's something that's really intriguing with me, and you hope that he improves when it comes to his turnover efficiency, as Cyro mentioned earlier. I think that's one of those things where this team is, a turnover-prone team, top 13 in the league.
To add on that, the positional size that the Magic love, especially with the measurements that Hugo came out and him being a former point guard or like point guard prospect that became kind of a wing, I think just even reinforce that, like, I feel like the super realistic pick.
100%. And I think I think for me, my logic was I have to leave 100% with one of these first two picks with a guy that makes sense to their positional size philosophy and then a guy that addresses their needs, which is not to say that, you don't get shooting from Hugo as well. Just you need to improve from there. As you mentioned, 28, 29% three. But I think you need to get a guy that can just be a flamethrower on the perimeter to add as well to the playmaking that he gives you. But Hugo is just more so a guy that kind of brings it all together and is more of so like, just shooting for the stars and hopefully that, that you bank on the upside versus, maybe the production that you saw in the last year.
Absolutely. Yeah. Number 26, you are on the board, Ersin.
Yeah, I'm going to combine it with 27. I've given it a lot of thought. And I saw the trade offer from Cyro, and I'm not going to do it. And it's going to be a long-winded explanation, but for the Nets, making the two decisions to pick is the best one in my opinion. I'm going to take some risk because I'm going to look bad if this guy goes to college eventually because, we still have a day before they can pull the name out. I am going with two players. The first one is Neoklis Dallas. I think he makes too much sense what everything the NBA stands for, man. 6'8", great athlete. Terrific athlete, tough. I think his downhill slashing is terrific. His on-ball creation is terrific. And if I look at what the Nets have, a guy like Clowney, a guy like Sorber, it's instant ball screens, man. It's instant creation impulse. It's going to help the Cam Thomas, and it's going to take pressure away from Cam Thomas. Have such a tall scorer like him, 6'8", he can switch. And
what position is Dallas?
I think he's going to be a 1-2. That's the best case scenario, because if you look at this game, that's the last thing you think, but that's where the philosophy hits in. And if you look at Greek players, they all grow in a system, and the Greek system is kind of traditional. They only play with pure points, and pure points and fundamentals. That's where it matters. But with him, the athleticism is the prevailing factor that helped him to grow into a good defender who can switch. I don't think he's going to switch to 3-4 positions. He should mainly be 1, 2, 3 best case scenario, because in NBA it's really tough to guard that many type of guys. But with him, the best thing that you're buying is the scalability of his game. He can grow from a slasher to an on-ball creator, and for the Nets, that's everything what they need. And you don't want to bet on multiple guys showing one skill. You want guys that can do multiple things for you. Those guys have the best odds to stick, especially for rebuilding teams because they're going to experiment.
I
And no
legit
case
thought
of
you were gonna.
Dallas.
I thought you were gonna go
Yeah.
with Berenger and Nolan. I thought you were gonna try to pair like the two French
I
guys
thought about
together.
Nolan a lot, but in my opinion, if I look at pure how I look at the draft, I think of Dallas is much better prospect than Pensare for Nolan.
I think you got a steal here. Who's your 27th pick?
And with 27, I kind of look like what the winning teams are trying to build through skill, through the 3-4. I think that's the most coveted position in the NBA. That's what everyone tries to hit. And if I look at last year's class, Noah Penda, for example, I was expecting him to come out. And a smart team, a creative coach would have picked him and then took the best out of it. But for the Nets, they need everything, man. They can experiment. And if I look at Noah Penda, what I like the most is how he, creates as a slasher, but also with the ball in his hands. I think if you want to play fast, that's the type of guy that you have to build through. And with him, I think he's not similar like other French prospects because he's really tough and he's really vocal, and he has that kind of New York attitude, that FU attitude that you have to that you must have to win or at least be respected on the floor. But the other side of the coin is really how much he showed at the team that really gave him the opportunity to play that he wanted. But they showed good results, and he at every level he showed a similar game. I think consistency in his age is it's not special, but it's not really something that you find in this class. The pro
That is
experience is that these front offices will value, and these European players. I think the NAL stuff makes them legitimate late first round options. I think they're all gonna hit there. I think Mohamed took Hugo Gonzalez is also a realistic pick. But for me, the skill and the positional size, athleticism, these three is all prevailing in every decision I make. I'm not going to trade out of 26, 27 because these guys are way too talented. They're not going to get back.
This is a really incredible 26 and 27 pick. Like, I just really love this combination of betting on that much upside with those two picks on the chance that one of those two guys hits, or God help the East if both of them hit. There's actual like real upside there. The Boston Celtics are on the board. Mohamed, this is you. 28 and 32. You got 28. Who you going with?
For 28, I'm going to pick Maxime Reynaud. He's somebody that just fits their philosophy of guys in the front court that can just offer a lot. I think when I look at him, you've seen the success that they've had with guys like, Namus Keita, Luke Cornett, Sam Hauser, guys that can shoot the ball well, but of course, not necessarily for Cornett, but front court talents that can kind of come in and be immediate impact guys. And I think when you look at a guy like Reynaud, somebody that, at 7'1", he can shoot the lights out the ball, offer you a lot of interior physicality. And, one of the most important things is he's very skillful as well. I think a guy that can just offers a short roll passer, a guy that can rebound the hell out of the ball. He was one of the best big men in this country in the NCAA this past season, 20 and 10. He's just a walking double-double. And, for what he's going to do on a team like Boston, he's going to be somebody that can just come in right away, be a very strong rotational bet in terms of a guy that can shoot the ball well, rebound, do the little things as well. And you wouldn't have to necessarily focus too much on retaining a guy like Porzingis, or, you've been having a lot of injury concerns and just, you don't know what the long-term outlook is for a guy like Porzingis. So what's not to do then pick a guy that would be his replacement long-term and somebody that very fits as well in terms of his archetype. Maybe not the same defensively, but I think that's one of those things where you can hopefully improve. And, of course, with the team and, recent injuries with a guy like Jason Tatum, you just want to add a guy that can bring a lot of seniority, a guy that you don't have to necessarily develop as much, and somebody that can kind of make sense to the physicality of the NBA and, not only offer himself as a face-up guy, a post-up guy, but also as well as a back to the basket and a spacer. So I think it'd be something that would fit really well with their philosophy in terms of the shooting and just overall internal scoring. So yeah, I really like Reynaud, and I think he'll fit really well with a team like Boston.
That's a really good fit, and I think like a lot of mock drafts have him going to Boston for exactly those reasons. He really fits with what they like. On number 29, the Phoenix Suns, who are currently trying to dangle Kevin Durant, and probably the deal gets done before the draft. So who knows if they'll even have this pick or they'll have a whole bunch of other picks, which could change a lot. So, all right.
Just want to know, are the Suns willing to trade Richards and Misic for Watson, Nanji, and Saric?
You're acting as the Denver Nuggets right now?
Yeah.
So Micic and Richards available for Peyton Watson, Zeke Naji, and Darius Harch. Yes.
You do that? Word. Because I
Yep.
can't pay Watson because I got to pay Brown. And now Micic is with his best friend in Jokic, who can be our backup point guard in Micic if he doesn't sign with Real Madrid. Or for I think it's either Real Madrid or Fenerbahce that's going after him. And then Darius Saric is going to pick up his option. He's an expiring. So I'm cool with that if you are. And then I get Nick
think it's
Richards.
Fenerbahce, man, but I would stay with Denver, man. Just go for the title run.
That's what I'm saying. And I get a backup center, Nick Richards, and then you get Zeke Naji as a reclamation project, and then you get Peyton Watson to extend him as he's eligible in October.
I can't even combine players because I'm a second apron team.
No, but what's it called? Does this get you below the apron? I'm trying to see. 1 second.
Second apron teams can't aggregate salaries for.
You can aggregate salaries. You can get aggregate salaries to get below the second apron. You cannot aggregate salaries to get a player. Does that make sense?
Sure, but Zeke Naji and Darius Saric and Peyton Watson, do they make less than Richards and Micic? I find that very hard to believe.
13.1 between Micic and Richards, and then
yeah, I'm taking on more salary.
I'm pretty sure. I think it's
Zeke is like 9, Dario's like 5, and Peyton's like 2. So there's no way in hell this deal gets me under the apron. Okay, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to pass on your deal, and I'm just gonna pick my guy at 29. I am debating 2 guys very quickly, and those 2 guys are my 2 big needs. Well, really 3 guys. Joan Berenger, I'm looking at him. I'm looking at Nolan Traore. I need a point guard. And I'm also looking at Ryan Kalkbrenner. Cyro, you're my assistant general manager. Is there one player that's clearly ahead of the others, or is it kind of a blank field?
I mean, like Kalkbrenner is going to be able to contribute as he's probably the best drop coverage big in the draft, like in terms of day one of being able to use his like verticality and size. Now he can hit the corner threes. I think his ceiling though is being just a really good backup big spot starter. It's not really someone you want being your starting big, but if you're talking about big man rotation by committee with like Nick Richards, Ryan Kalkbrenner, and Oso Ighodaro, and maybe somebody else to bring in for agent, I think that's like competent. Jean Berger is like, I think I would go Berger just because like the upside is there, and I think he can give you at the very least the same impact that Kalkbrenner is giving you. I just think Berger has the possibility of developing more or even being a trade chip. I just think you go best pick available. I think Berger is that guy.
With our need for a point guard, Nolan Traore means like.
If Walt Clayton's here, I would have taken him, but I think Traore is again just too big of.
What about Will Riley?
He's more of a slasher cutter.
I like the idea of Ryan Kalkbrenner here, so I'm going to do that because I am an unimaginative organization and I make a lot of mistakes. But yeah, I'm going to go with Ryan Kalkbrenner. Number 30, that's the LA Clippers. And the LA Clippers are run by me. And I'm not going to drag this out. I'm taking Nolan Traore and I'm running away. I'm just going to take Nolan Traore here. So with the 30th pick in the draft, wait, do I have to consider anyone else? Joan Berenger, Nolan Traore. It's between these 2 guys or Will Riley.
Drew Eubanks isn't returning for the Clippers, so I'd go Berenger because they don't have a backup center. They're going to cut Eubanks because he's on a non-guaranteed contract.
Okay. Would you consider Hanson Yang here?
I wouldn't consider Hanson Yang till like the second half of the second round, maybe even as a priority two-way.
Does it move you at all that No Ceilings has one of his comparisons as Arvydas Sabonis? Does that move you? No, not at all. Okay.
No, I've seen the guy in person. I'm not
either.
He runs kind of pigeon-toed. It's weird. I don't like how he moves.
Yeah, I feel like the post-hub playmaking has really like seduced people, and the touch and the occasional blocks, and they're like, oh my God, 7-2, you can do all of that. I mean, I'm going to eat crow like when the guy wins MVP in like 14 years, but still, I'm willing to do that. Okay, With the
I'm willing to
31st
bet
pick,
he's Dwayne Dedman at best.
Dwayne Dedman catching strays for absolutely no reason
Dwayne
at
Dedman's
all.
a great player.
Kings paid Dwayne Dedman, man. The Kings paid him.
Name's Cyro Seo. You can find me at youtube.com at Cyro Seo, Twitter at Cyro Seo, or at hoopshype.com under Cyro Seo to Cook. They put my full name. So
My name's Mohamed. You can find me at MCF NBA on Twitter. And yeah.
And my name is Ersin. You can find me at Twitter at EDEMIRNBA, or my Substack with the same EDEMIRNBA.substack.com. I wrote about the NBA prospects nonstop, so that's what I do, man.
So with the 31st pick, the Minnesota Timberwolves are on the board. This is you, Ersin.
I'm gonna take minutes of everyone's time here, but I want to explain because man, you
Sure.
put Johan Berger there. I was like, nah, come on, man. That's the guy I was gonna take. But I'm gonna take Yannick Kona-Niederhauser at 31 because I'm gonna invest in Robbie Dillingham, man. I'm gonna invest in him. I think he needs a vertical lob threat. I think Dillingham's best potential in the NBA is going to be as a playmaker for them off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
And he needs a vertical lob threat to succeed, man. And I think Rudy needs kind of a breath. And I don't think they have that many options behind him. Yannick Kona-Niederhauser, man, he was personally my guy for the Clippers. And for the Timberwolves, they fit a similar need. And what I like most about him is, it's again the combination of athleticism and toughness, man. I think that's what made him survive at Penn State and really take a big leap in his game, considering where he came from. I think Niederhauser is a no-brainer, man. I'm even sure that he's not going to fall outside of the first round, man, in the draft night. So
Probably not. Okay, number 32. That's on you, Mohamed. You're the Boston Celtics. 32. Where are you going?
I'm going to take Adu Thiero from Arkansas. I think for him, he's just a super rangy wing, super athletic, defensive-oriented wing. And, I think with this Celtics philosophy of having very rangy players, of course, defense is going to be one of the most important things. Shooting is also another important thing, which that may be a little bit of a concern with a guy like Thiero. But I think in terms of his offense, he's a guy that is a jump-out-the-gym athlete, but he's also another guy that can get downhill as well. But I think with the defense being something that we're going to run with his calling card first, he's a switchable forward, super athletic, a strong weak side rim protector, but of course he has strong POA skills. I think the play strength is really good, and I think one of the things with him is he's been somebody that's been growing and growing. We'd seen not the season, but previous to last season, he was somebody that was 6'6", and then up to this season, he's now 6'8". So I think he'd be able to kind of fit in the rotation of guys that can coming off bench. And I think when you look at the rotation of guys in the Celtics, he would easily be one of the most, if not the most athletic player in that rotation. So he'd be somebody that can kind of come in right away and just make his stamp be known defensively. And you hope that he can improve the shot, but be somebody that can just attack closeouts. And I think with that athleticism, he's been able to do that on an Arkansas team where, not only was he maybe not necessarily the focal point of the team, but there was so many guys where he had to learn how to attack closeouts to be a guy that could be a spot up guy. So I think he would just jump out the gym and fit really well in that organization.
Awesome. Next up, we have Cyro for the
back-to-back
Charlotte Hornets, back-to-back 33rd and 31st overall picks. And I have to say, these back-to-back picks are awesome. When you have two, it's amazing, especially when you're debating between you guys and you're like, I can have both of them. Yes. So you can have both your guys.
3. I just want to make sure who's available right here. Okay, no one like wild. That's yeah. So
yeah, some of these guys have gone back. Janai Broom, Hanson Yang. Let me just quickly review like who's gone off. Derek Queen, Jeremiah Fierce, Khan Knipple, Kaman Malawach, Carter Bryant, Noah Senge, Yegor Demon, Cedric Howard, Colin Murray Boyles, Rasheer Fleming, Jace Richardson, Neek Clifford, Kasparis Yakuchonis, Thomas Sorber, Walter Clayton, Asa Newell, Liam McNeely, Danny Wolf, Drake Powell, Hugo Gonzalez, Neoklis Abdallas, Noah Penda at 27. So he picked, so Ersin picked Neoklis and Noah Penda back to back. 28 was Maxime Renault. 29 was Ryan Cockbrenner. And 30th was Joan Berenger.
We're going to go then Will Riley. He's available from what I understand, right?
Yep.
We'll go Will Riley just because, a guy who was a former point guard just now is more of kind of slash one of the best cutters actually in college basketball. And I think they'll be able to deploy him in certain ways. Now he did make, I think it was this past year, 35.6%, I think. No, my apology. I'm going into my notes right here. his shots were, he made 34.5% of his catch and shoot jumpers this year. So I think for a guy who on the season shot 32.6%, I think the mechanics are there, and he's someone who does good with the ball, playing off of ball screens, and has the ability to have good chemistry with a big man like a Zach, not Zach, but a Mark Williams. And we saw what he did in college with a floor spacing big man. So I think with all these floor spacers that they now have in Miles Bridges, Brandon Miller, and LaMelo Ball, he'll be able to basically drive and kick out to them. He also made 60% of his attempts at the rim in the half court setting. So that's another little tidbit. And you said Nolan Traore is still available.
Yep.
I think he might be the best pick available at this point.
I'm shocked he slipped this far.
Yeah. So I think, and this is a team that doesn't really have a backup point guard. I know they have Simpson, who I like. KJ Simpson. I really did like him coming out of Colorado last year. He's a nice kid. And I just think at this point, you just take a swing on Traore. He had a good end of the year. Another guy who runs the pick and roll well, and with Mark Williams, who's a massive lob threat, and also being able to run maybe some off ball with LaMelo. I think Traore could be just, a good six man for them that they've lacked.
Absolutely. Number 36 on the board is Ersin with the Brooklyn Nets. He cooked up with those last three picks. Okay.
I have 35 as well with the Sixers.
Oh, shoot. You have, my bad. I totally misread that. So your first pick was Trey Johnson, and now you've got 35. And then you got back-to-back.
I'm gonna bank on the injury minutes of Embiid and give Adem Bona some more relief in the front court. I'm going with skill. Bogoljub Markovic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Damn,
I wanted Bogey. I was gonna have Bogey. Bogey's like my steal of the draft. I love Bogey. Every time I've talked to him in the past 2 years, dude, that guy is gonna be freaking good. Literally 6'10" man who can pass, dribble, shoot. Oh.
Look at this guy, so excited about Bogey after passing on him twice in the last. You just passed on him back to back.
I was
thinking,
okay.
If only the Charlotte Hornets had 3 picks in a row.
I talked to him. I was like, yeah, he's gone, man. No chance that he's gonna fall to my lap, but here he is. I like him a lot. If he's gonna learn how to defend, this guy is gonna be a rotational player, no doubt, man, no doubt. But it's really tough to see sometimes how he defends away from the ball. So that's the painful part of his evaluation, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I think the Hornets might be too scarred from Tijon Saloon to go with a guy like Markovic. I just think that they wouldn't be the team to take Markovic. I think I think the team he took with Abdalis would be the ones to also if Markovic were to sneak into the first, it would be like the Nets would swing on a guy like that.
I could see that for sure. I
think I'm lucky, man. I think I have 2 picks more. I have the Nets now, and I have the Pistons next.
Yeah,
the Pistons
with
pick
the
as
Nets.
well.
Yeah, man. Well, let me think about the Nets.
Back to back. Okay.
Back to back. That's more stuff. And looking at the Nets, you know what the painful part is? I was thinking about Malik Lewis, but he pulled his name out. So that's one. That's a bummer, man, because that's why it's been my loyal early second round pick for the entire year. So. Wait, let me.
I know you're not a big Ben.
I
know you're not a big Ben Seraph guy. Ben Seraph. I know you're not big on him, from what I understand. But your previous selections have been Con Knippel, Thomas Sorber, Neoklas Avdalis, and Noah Penda. What are you trying to do here? Are you trying to just embarrass the rest of the league? You're just trying to embarrass the rest of the league with your amazing.
Knuppel was Mohamed's pick, man. When we traded, I traded back.
Because yes, you did trade back, but you did get Thomas Sorber.
Yeah, because I was almost lured into trading that pick, but I was like, nah, I think it's too much teams that need a center after that. I can't trade. If I go to the Nets,
that's insane, man. It's I really feel like you got 3 rotation players here. That's nuts. Okay.
Do you guys have a few minutes? I have something I want to really think about here, man.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not really sure who's still on the board, man. It's so mixed up with which guy keeps his name in the draft, and this is where things are getting dangerous,
Ben Seraph, obviously, Henson Yang, Cyan James.
I have 2 ideas about what I'm going to do. I'm going with some older college players,
Okay. Well, I'm your
because
assistant
I
general
believe that the
manager.
Nets
So
is going to trade Cam Johnson. Man. I think he's gonna be
Mhm.
traded,
Does
and
Ben Henschel?
I'm going to go with top shooting skill. I'm not really in favor of, in my personal board, to put this guy at that position.
Okay.
But I'm going with Kobe Bryant from Kentucky,
Oh.
man. I think they need some really good shooting.
Okay.
I
And
love.
he makes
I
sense
love
in
that.
terms of depth.
Okay.
The one thing that scares me is he has metal rods in both legs. So like I love Kobe Bryant. I thought the Warriors would be like I was hoping for my Warriors pickers there,
Yeah.
but yeah, like just the he broke both legs like through stress fractures during his after his freshman year.
That is
Yeah,
interesting.
that's the
And
dangerous part.
also
And if the shot doesn't fall, he's useless, man. Because on defense, it's really rough to see at times. Unfortunately, with him.
negative wingspan prospects at the wing.
Could be the Jalen Wells of this draft class, though, in terms of like not defense, but just 3-point shooter who ends up breaking onto our rotation because of how good of a shooter he is.
He is truly one of the most insane collegiate shooters I've seen in my life.
Same thing with
50%.
Chad Lanier.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. With 37, Ersin, you're on the board again. Popular guy.
I
Second
think with the
round.
Pistons, it's counters for the playoffs. I think the Knicks often got the best of them, man, because I really wanted them to win that series, and they had a couple of good opportunities, but they really struggled to close games.
Mhm.
So I'm going with some older guys. I'm going with depth. I was thinking about Dink Pate for an experiment, but that's not something that they really need right now. And if I think about that Ben Saraf, the reason I like Ben Saraf as a player, but the reason why I'm really hesitant with him is he's really one and dominant, man, and he makes it work in Europe because he's so fundamentally sound and he's best in tight space. He's not
Right.
good in space, if that makes sense. I
I
think his
get
game
what
is
you're
really
saying.
built for Europe. I don't really like his potential for the NBA that much, to be honest. I think in Europe
Mm.
that's the environment
What do you
where
what do you
he's
think
much
about
better.
Alex? What do you think about Alex Tui, Ben Henschel, and also Izan Almansa?
I was thinking about Tui, and I was thinking about some guys I have for myself where I'm personally higher than them, 5th-year guys, but 37, that's rich. That's really guaranteed money environments. And I'm going with the guy from Duke, man. I think they need maturity. They need some defensive, a stout defender, really a role player, man. I think Zion James is the best fit for what the Pistons need at this moment.
Yep.
He's going to help Kate a lot. I think Zion James is the best pick here.
That's a really good pick, and probably, at least I was leaning in that direction. This is your final pick. Mohammed, what are you doing with 38?
Give me Tyrese Proctor if we're on the topic of Duke guys. I think when you think about previous guys that have been in that San Antonio roster, I mean, a guy that comes into mind that really mimics what, Tyrese Proctor could become eventually would be like a Derek White, a guy that, at 6'5", very good sharpshooter, a guy that, hopefully if he puts on more in terms of his frame, could be a strong defender in the POA. Somebody that, if he can improve in terms of, as I mentioned, his physicality and overall rim pressure, I think he'll be a really, really strong rotational bet. And, for a team like, the Spurs, this is a team where you want to kind of add more talent, especially in the guard position. Again, as more as you add guys like this, and he's more of a big guard too. So, maybe he could potentially operate maybe as like a smaller sized wing, more of a 2 or 3 maybe in certain lineups. But I think with him, he's been somebody where there's always something with him. The previous season, he was a little lackluster, and then this season he kind of picked it back up and was pretty strong in his overall shooting and creation ability. And I think this is a guy for, where I'm picking at 38, or 39 per se. This is a really good flyer and a guy that can, really carve his role out in rotation. And if he can improve his defense and physicality, I think a guy that'll be a mainstay.
That's good. Okay. I think you did really well on that one for sure. Back-to-back Dukies go off the board. I'm on the board at 39 as the Toronto Raptors. And once again, like a good general manager, I will ask for a little bit of help on this one from Cyro. Now, I'll give you some names that I'm looking at. I don't have a clear idea of what I'm doing with Jakob Poeltl. I would like some center depth. I love how Ulrich developed in the G League last year. That was really cool. He's a really young player. He's almost as young. Like, he could have been a freshman in college this year, and he would have been one of the younger players in the country. So I genuinely think that I have something with him, but he might still be a few years away. So I'm looking at a guy like Janai Broom, who is phenomenally productive, decent playmaker. I like Janai Broom here. At 39, this is insane value for one of the most productive players in college basketball. I wonder if he guards at the NBA level, but I like his hands as a defender. And I'm looking at Janai Broom. I'm looking at Jameer Watkins as well.
I was
out of
going to bring
Florida
up
State.
Jameer. That was going to be my guy I was going to bring up.
But I'll remind you, I did pick Carter Bryant, and I did pick Kaman Malawach.
Yeah.
So this is my third rookie coming into my system now. I'm not necessarily looking at fit. If there's a clear talent here, Hanson Yang is appealing to me, even though I have question marks. It's a huge
Tui as kind of like a George Niang type combo forward to help space the floor between all the, because you have a lot of guys who are ball dominant. Yes, they're scorers.
I already have Jamison Battle.
I know,
and
but
I really like.
But he's a swingman. Tui can play the forward next to Ingram, Scotty Barnes, and even if you keep RJ Barrett, can stay.
I already traded RJ.
Oh yeah, you included him in the Nets deal, right?
Yep, he's gone.
So
Ochai's gone. I did that primarily because I wanted to clear up minutes for Jacoby Walter and also Carter Bryant and also Jamison Battle. Like I believe in those guys. And I also believe, but weirdly enough, in Jonathan Mobo, who I think was roughly, if by my estimation, like a 70th percentile defender last year as a rookie.
Yes. Again, I think you don't have like a true 6'9" guy, 6'8" guy who can just space the floor for you. Like, and that's the connective piece. That Tui does not need the ball in his hand, and he'll just play off ball, and he can just be a guy who stands in the court, spaces the floor, and can guard 3s and 4s. And he played in the pro league, so he's going to understand his role.
Alex Tui is very appealing here. Is there any thought towards Tui versus?
I like Watkins too.
I like Jameer Watkins too. Would you consider Rocco Zakarski here at all?
I did think of that, but I don't. I think you just create a log jam. You have to figure out Pirtle and Malawach, and isn't Ulrich another backup big in theory? So I kind of think
he's a 5'4", but he's probably fast for a 3. So it's like I could see Ulrich. I mean, none of them technically shoot, but they all have shooting upside. Like Ulrich can shoot through. Go ahead.
I would build up. You don't have forwards or wings anymore, so I would just try to find connected pieces.
Yeah, I think Tui makes a lot of sense, man, because his selfless type of game. He doesn't need the ball, and he finds ways to improve. And that's why he was so good this year compared to last year. If you look at this game, he barely has ball touches. He's trying to get rid of the ball, if that makes sense, man.
Right.
And as a scorer, he's good in creating out of closeouts. But more than that shouldn't be expected from him. I think in terms of what you have, you don't want logjam ball handlers or 5s, man, because Ulrich,
I don't have anybody who can really.
Every year new center, that's too much, I think. And this
Here's
year you have 2.
Here's the thing. I don't have anybody who can create their own shot off the dribble and get 2 feet in the paint. Everyone requires a screen. Literally all of them. Brandon Ingram, Scotty Barnes, Emmanuel Quickly, none of them have like that dynamic handle. Does Ben Seraph make any sense here? Has he fallen too far for a player of his talent level? And I'll remind you, I have one of the best development staffs in the league. So if he's one hand dominant, I can probably fix that. If I could fix Ersin, as I believe Cyro is my assistant general manager. If I convinced you, based on what you know about Ben Seraph, if I convinced you that I was,
is he still on the board?
He is on the board.
Oh, I'd take Ben Seraph then.
Okay,
he's the best player available then.
Okay, I was thinking Jameer Watkins here. I was thinking about, yeah. Okay, you know what, Ben Seraph, because you don't think so, Ersin?
No, I was going to say I felt the explanation to not pick him because I'm shocked that he's still available as well, man. So
yeah, I was just thinking
why I wasn't taking him.
He has the highest potential out of anybody left. You just take best pick available. He'll hopefully develop either as a point guard or a shooting guard in this scenario.
Perfect. Number 40 on the board, Cyro. This is
Rocco Zakarski. We just need another big. We just need bodies. I think Zakarski's the highest potential big.
Have you met him?
Yeah, twice. Nice guy. I know I have his old coach, Justin Schuler's number. I met him, Justin, before they were hyping him up as a future number 1 pick when I first met them. But like,
I remember
yeah,
that.
Rocco's really nice. And then with the
He's confident.
Yeah, and then Alex Tui for the Golden State Warriors, that he's a shooter, doesn't need the ball in his hands. He can play the 4. Basically, what they thought Patrick Baldwin was going to do, they'll have Alex Tui do that.
42nd pick, Sacramento Kings. This is on me, and I am going to go with. I gotta go with Janai Broom, man. I know, the fit with DeMontis is not great, but I believe that he has a great model in front of him, and I think he's a better defender than DeMontis. So I'm gonna go with Janai Broom. Number 43, that's the Utah Jazz. The Utah Jazz are also me here. By the way, if you guys just, as analysts, completely disagree with something that I'm doing and you think Jazz fans are going to hate me for it, just feel free to chime in, because I don't have any checks and balances against me right now. I'm just like a man I'm a tyrant, unchecked. I'm like, that's it. Ryan Nemhard. Okay. The Jazz, I'm actually going to go with Hanson Yang here. Is that crazy? I don't think it's crazy. Is that nuts?
Crazy.
I'm
Not
considering
really.
Hanson Yang or Ben Henschel here.
I think Henschel might actually come back to school. I'm not 100% sure. I know today.
Okay.
I think he has some
Then-
college offers, and he only has that G League Ignite game to really show for what he did, man, for the last 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else that I'm forgetting right now that you guys think I should be looking at here?
What direction
Do
do
you
you
want a
try
5?
to go?
I mean, I need everything. I'm a terrible team, but I definitely need a point guard, but I'm not willing to take Ryan Nemhard here. I think when I look at
Cam
guards,
Jones?
I think the issue that Jazz fans have, they don't have tall guards.
That is
And they took Cody Williams, but yeah, that's not a good thing. Dink Pate
I
might be a long-term bet, a cheap
Yeah.
one.
what
maybe
about
they call RJ Lewis. If you wanna
what
pick
about
guards.
Kobe? What about Kobe Sanders?
6'8" guard. That's a good bet right there. I think he'd be a
Yeah,
person
he
that
was
could fit
solid.
really well. I mean, your
Over-
selections here, ace.
Kobe Sanders, Jameer Watkins. That's kind of where I'm at here.
I'd pick Watkins. I think Watkins has the size, like 6'6", 6'11" wingspan, and he played really well. I think with him, he had a really strong couple of scrimmages. The combine, I think with him, it's more so just, he's an older prospect. The offense is, he just improves as a shooter, but Jameer Watkins is
Yeah, they
probably a
need
serious-
older guys, man, because they take young every year, but you can't continue doing that. Man, because
Well, I mean,
they-
last year
Yeah.
they took Devin Carter and he's old, and they've taken Davion Mitchell and he was old. So I think they might be a little bit scarred from taking older players. But here in the second round, they do that. Number 44, which is also me with the OKC Thunder. And here, should I take Dink Pate?
do you want
No.
another center, or what do you want to do?
Because this pick probably does not see the floor. I'll
You
be
can
honest.
really
Probably
take a 5.
I mean, this
Maybe a
guy's
backup.
going to be sitting in the G League at some point, right?
yeah. So you
But
probably
I don't. Yeah, Hunter
If
Salas.
you want to look for a 5, yeah.
How about Hunter Salas?
For the Thunder?
Yeah. Or
I
Chaz
don't know, I would
Lanier.
go with the 5, man, honestly.
You would go with a 5?
Yeah,
No
'cause-
faith.
I think more so for depth.
No faith in Brandon Carlson. Okay, so in terms of 5s that are
I like,
available, it's basically Hanson Yang. Who else is actually available? Vlad Goldstein.
I think
Golden
in terms of
Star-
you look at pure skill, what they look for, I think Lachlan Olbrich, man, he had a really good summer. I think
good rebounder, good finisher. Just can't shoot though. But I mean, 6'10". You like the size, and you like that he can rebound the ball well. He's like one of those
Pure
kind of
skill.
And you
Screen, man,
definitively
that's all.
like him more than you definitely like him more than Mofe.
Mofe actually just withdrew from the draft not even 5 minutes ago. I just seen this tweet.
Okay.
But
That
I think
seals
with,
it.
I think with Olbrich, it's like Ersin mentioned, he's very skillful. He's very nimble on his feet. He can move, and I think with a guy like him, he just kind of makes sense with OKC, a guy that can kind of space the floor out, not as a shooter, but a guy that can just be very feelsy and a guy that can be comfortable with the ball in his hands versus maybe like a Yang or a Mofe in this instance where maybe they might be really poor in their foot speed or maybe not necessarily the best in terms of scoring outside of the restricted or paint area with maybe Hanson, and you hope the shot improves. But I think just defensively, I don't know if he's going to be able to hold up. But in terms of the handling big, you love it. But that's not what OKC needs, at least for what you're picking at 44.
Okay. With the 45th pick, it's Ersin. You're on the board.
And
With
Rob,
the
I like
Chicago
you so
Bulls.
much. I shot myself in the foot because that's the guy I had in mind for the Bulls, man.
Oh wow. Okay. My bad.
Nah, because I think I will go for the Bulls. Wait, let me think 1 second what I'm gonna do. I think I'm gonna go with Eric Dixon here, man, from
Hmm.
Nova for them. I think they need shooting. That's what he brings. Toughness into the interior. Yeah, man. I think Vucevic he can steal some minutes as a 5.
Okay. Done with the 46th pick, which is the Orlando Magic, which is on Mohamed.
At 46, I think for me, just taking flyer and an upside and hope that, he can just improve physically and just technically. I'm going to take a guy, Michael Ruzic from Juventus.
Okay.
No,
He's
I
just the
think he
guy
pulled
that
his name up, man. He pulled his
he
name
did
up
out
2 days ago.
already. Oh, okay. Wait,
Wait, let me double check. I think I saw something 2 days ago that I pulled his name up.
It's
okay.
From Samuel Juventus for
Sergio is
Orlando.
also not in this draft, so this
Yeah,
this board is confusing. Like that's
He-
what's slowing us down a little bit because
Sergio
like,
Lorea signed a new contract, man. He pulled his name out, I think, 2 months ago or
they,
something like that.
yeah, they didn't want him to go to the NBA. He was actually going to probably be like a top 35, 40 guy. So they just paid him so he didn't have to go.
mm,
He's on Almanza, actually.
that's a good pick.
That's
I like
actually a
that.
good bet. I think for him, he's been somebody probably one of the most decorated international players in terms of FIBA play for Spain. Very unique player. I think he doesn't really have like a defined offensive game outside of like the interior finishing.
He's so reliant on guard play, man. And I think maybe
Yeah,
that's why Orlando's a good fit for him.
yeah. Because when I look at him, unironically, he reminds me of like an Oso Iguodaro last year. A guy
Right.
that is 10, 6'11", can
And
really.
he's a system player, man.
Yeah, exactly. I think him going to Perth versus the G League Met was never a good fit. I always knew he just didn't make sense on that team. He was never prioritized versus guys like Tyler Smith and Buzelis and things like that. He just never really crafted himself out of that lineup. And when you watch him on Spain with actual real guard play, he was very comfortable on that team and
that's
was
why
very
he's a
successful.
system player because they only play guard play, only play
Yeah,
set screens, and he was so athletic. He won everything out of athleticism. When everyone is athletic, that's where he really
struggles.
yeah.
The
Yeah,
Milwaukee Bucks
Skills
are
out
up
there.
next. I'm looking
yeah, I
at
agree.
Chaz Lanier and I'm looking at Micah Peavy.
I think they need shooting, man. I think Lanier would be insane for them.
As a guard too, yeah. I don't know if Trent stays for a deal. I like Linear. I think he's not even just a shooter as well. He's also a scorer too. Can get downhill as
Yeah,
bit. But
I think that's the
he's a
only thing
creator.
they really need, man. If
Yeah,
Giannis stays or goes, I think the shooting and the scoring.
So you think Chaz Lanier would be a good pick here?
yeah. I think that he's a better
I love
creator
that.
than
Does
PV.
this like kind of low release bother you?
Not really, because again, he's been shooting in sub 40%. Actually, probably closer to 40%. He's like 39% from three on really really high volume. So for me, he was pretty big catalyst for Tennessee's success.
Cool.
And he's more than just a
think
shooter. He's a creator as well.
He shoots quick. I think that's the most prevailing vector, man. I think a guy like Halliburton is the same thing, right? But he just found a way.
Right.
Maybe
Exactly.
does not compare to these guys, of course, but
I know
in
what you
terms
mean.
of how it looks.
Ersin, this is you have 2 picks here with Memphis, 48 up next and then 56. Who are you taking at 48?
And I'm Memphis. Okay.
Yes.
I'm thinking about what they need, man. Because I'm not really.
Well, they took Zach Edey last
what
year. They
they
have
need.
Jaren Jackson Jr. I'm assuming he's staying because he's not Supermax eligible. I don't know why Scottie Pippen has moved up in the lineup as a starter. I don't think he's a starter, but Vince Williams is pretty cool. Gigi Jackson's pretty cool. Jalen Wells is pretty
They
good.
had
Like,
injuries, right? So they might go
Yeah.
3-4 here.
so
Yeah.
a 3-4.
They're really deep on wings. I'm not gonna lie. If you just look at this team, they have a lot of wings.
Yeah.
Jalen Wells, really impressive season last year. Kind of carved his own rollout. Late 30s pick.
Would you consider taking a flyer on Dink Pate here? I mean, I have concerns about him just from his interviews and stuff. Sometimes I've listened to some of his podcast interviews and I'm just like, damn, this guy really doesn't get it.
He's really young. Yeah, he's a pretty young guy. He probably doesn't, he's not that maturity wise, but um, I think when you're picking at 48, you're just taking talent or upside. I mean, I think with opportunity, I think that's the biggest thing. And I mean, 6'6",
They have a good development system.
forward.
I
Yeah,
think I think they should take a role because who do they have at the 5? That's what I'm thinking about.
yeah, and he just hurt his ankle, the same one that he hurt last year. He's had 3 ankle injuries actually in the same year. So
Yeah,
it's
and he's
similar.
getting surgery, so he's probably gonna be out for a little bit. Hanson Yang is still on the board.
I mean, that would be a really.
Because Amari Williams is done, right? 5th year,
Oh,
so no
no.
eligibility. I'm gonna take Amari Williams, man.
That is a great pick.
Okay.
Lamar Williams, yeah.
Because I'm thinking about what Zach Easy doesn't really have. He's a good passer, but yeah, man, that guy fouled out. You need someone who can take his minutes a little bit. I think Amari, his issue is he's a one-hand scorer, man. He's just not efficient at the most vital part that he should be efficient. But I think the
Yeah.
gravity as a passer,
Oh,
and
yeah.
not that shoulder roll passing, but that really post entry and then immediately moving the ball around. That's a skill. I think they need something like that. Because I
Yeah.
don't think Santi Aldama or something will really provide that for them.
Ever
Perfect.
since they moved off of Steven Adams too, like, they really haven't had, even though Zach is a good screener, I don't think they've had the same kind of movement in their offense, especially with a slow-footed guy. Amari Williams is a very strong guy in terms of his movement, feel on the ball. So I really like their DHO actions, things like that with him.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay, so next up on the board is me at 49, and I am the Cleveland Cavaliers.
What do they do? New guard?
I need a wing, man. Like I need a wing who can freaking score the basketball, who can defend. Do I take a flyer on Dink? Do I take a flyer on Dink here, or do I maybe look at international players? Hang on.
Maybe
I think it makes sense because Ty Jerome wasn't really good lately, right? Playoffs.
Yeah,
He wasn't. I think he got schemed out. What about Ben Henshaw
Darius
here?
Garland.
Could be a good wing. I think that
I
was.
don't like Henshaw at all, man. Honestly.
You don't like him at all?
Like those two guys should not be on the board at this stage. I think they're good players. I think as well. RJ Lewis. I mean, I don't know if his offense is there yet, but I mean, 18 points per game. He somehow figured it out at St. John's. He just needs to tighten it up. But I mean, when you're picking that 9, you just got to be at a spot where you just take talent, take the best guy. One guy can actually be a carved rotational guy. I mean, Kobe Johnson, that was a really great defender, good 3-and-D.
Cam Jones is still on the board. That's crazy, man. That was crazy.
Extremely crazy, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Cam Jones is too much to pass up on here. So okay, the New York Knickerbockers at 50, and my former hometown, New York Knicks. Okay, I am going to take. Man,
Tibbs is not relevant anymore, man. So that's the really tough part.
Sorry,
I mean, his young. Oh, you're saying Tibbs is not here, so the young guy philosophy.
Yes, that's true.
Could open up the door.
It could. I'm looking at like who is the best player available here. I'm finding it really hard to imagine a world in which Hanson Yang really falls to 50, but it's happening, and so I'm going to take him at 50. I'm just going to swing on upside, and I'm going to pray that he's not a lemon, right? Because
really,
if this guy
makes sense. It makes sense because the Knicks really need a 5, right? The skilled 5.
Totally.
Hartenstein leave, and Mitch Robinson is not that type.
Absolutely. And, the Knicks are a huge media market. And in this mock draft, I just gifted them like what they're going to probably assume the minute he's drafted as a future MVP. So they're going to be really excited about that. So, okay. So with the 51st pick, the LA Clippers, this is on. God damn it. Who's got the Clippers?
You.
This is on me.
Yeah, you got the Clippers 51.
Damn. Okay. Back to back picks. I really wanted to avoid that in the first round, but I didn't think too much about the second round. And because these picks are so consistently traded, it's really difficult. I am going to take...
Who did you take for them?
I took Behringer with their first round.
Behringer?
Yeah.
I
took Joan Behringer, so I'm looking at...
That would be awesome, man.
I'm looking at Hunter Styles here. Yeah. I took the upside. Now I take a proven senior. Makes sense. 52nd pick, the Phoenix Suns. This is also on me. My God. Like, why? Back to back. My God. Okay. Phoenix Suns.
Is essential, man, that they find some value. because they have no other choice.
They got center. I mean, if they trade for KD or they trade KD away, I think they bring in a guard.
If you
Surely,
go for traditional guard,
Well, they got Ryan
they need
Cockburner in the
guard play,
first
man.
round, so we
And you
took
have
the
Nembhard.
stable.
Nembhard really took over.
Yeah.
yeah, but him and Tyus are very similar and like very
Would you
Tyus is also
would you
good,
call me
man.
crazy if I took Ryan Nembhard here?
I don't think it's crazy. He's one of the best playmakers in this class. I think the
Like,
nation.
I definitely think he's going to get hunted defensively. I mean, he got hunted defensively last time, but I think like they need someone who can just stabilize the offense off the bench. Like, I obviously do not think he's going to be a backup guard, but like I don't think he's going to be like a starter. But just watching with TJ
What do they
McConnell,
need?
they need everything, man. They need a backup point guard.
Could go
I mean,
John
we traded.
Tange.
John Tanji, 6'4"
John
guard.
Tange from Wisconsin.
That is a really interesting pick too. For
I
sure.
was thinking about them for Memphis at 56.
I liked him, yeah, because he's a big physical guy too. You know, you have to think he makes sense for that team. If it's not a table setter point guard, just a guard.
Ryan Dunn is also physical, but he's not a shooter, man. I think that's
Okay.
what you.
Tanjay is off the board. Utah Jazz is also on.
Also, you.
Fucking hell, man. Just don't.
53. These guys are probably going to be UDFA two-way range.
I mean, that used to be the case. That really used to be the case. But now, like, I feel, and especially in years, there are, man. Like, you look at
Cam Spencer from last year. He was one of the guys that was contributing on the Grizzlies. He was like, I think, a late 50s pick. Awesome. That's with a guy like Bronny.
Milo Uzan went back, right?
Yeah, coming back.
Damn. Mackenzie Mbako went back.
Okay.
Micah Peavy is still on the board. I like him.
Good shooter. 6'8" guy. I think that's what they need. Utah needs shooting and defense, I'll be honest. Peavy brings that 6'8".
Yeah, I'm going Micah Peavy here.
Yeah, Peavy makes sense, man.
Please,
That's
God, tell me I'm not on the board again. The Indiana Pacers. This is not.
That's gonna be. For me, I mean, I got this range. I'm trying to think. I mean, a lot of the guys that are going to be here are probably, again, they're not going to probably be planning as much, but I think a guy I would like to take is RJ Lewis. I don't know how he's fallen this deep. I think a guy, he's like 6'7" guard, super physical. Offense, he needs to figure what it is his calling card. Is he a guy that can get downhill consistently? Is he a guy that can shoot the ball really well? But I mean, a guy that's just kind of a juiced out 6'7" two-way guy, I would like for a shot. But I think in real life, I think he's probably going to be a lot higher than 54. But me personally, I wish he went back to school. I think the market for what we could have got back with NIL would have been a lot more than probably what he's probably going to command in the second round, or if he finds a way to sneak in the first round somehow. But yeah, I mean, RJ Lewis probably the most talented player left, without a doubt. So
Cyro just interviewed him today, which is really funny. Just interviewed him at noon, and yeah. Okay, with 55 for the Los Angeles Lakers, with I believe their only pick in this draft. In back-to-back years, they picked 55, and this year they're going to pick a real NBA player in Dink Pate. Just kidding. I'm kidding.
Bryce James
coming out. Yeah. Okay. I don't think I'm crazy for picking Dink Pate here. I think this is an upside swing here. This is a bet that, you know, maybe, just maybe, he's been in a really terrible context. G League Ignite, G League with the Mexico City Capitans. There was some real buzz last year that if he had come out, he might be a lottery pick. Oh, how the stock has fallen. Legit. Like, he was fighting to come out, right?
There's like a period where he wasn't playing basketball, and then he went to Mexico City.
He was applying for a waiver because the Ignite got shut down. And then
exactly, but I'm saying, like, in that,
he went to Mexico.
Well, there was a debate whether he would be allowed to enter the draft because the G League Ignite program, you know, went out. And I'm not kidding. Like, I spoke to some people around him who thought that he might go top 5 last year. Like, he thought he might go top 5 last year based on what he was hearing. Now, I don't know who he was hearing or what he was hearing from, but the stock has really fallen. You know, I think people have had a long time to dissect his game. I don't think the growth that people were hoping with the jump shot has really come out. A lot of inconsistencies there. There's a lot of athletic potential. There's a lot of talent. I don't know if he's a point guard. Is he a point guard at the next level? I don't think so.
I think he's like one of those wings that have connected passing. Like, it's like a Demon, bro. Like, Demon's not going to be a point guard in the league, but I think he's a guy that is a player that will come in right away with very strong passing skill that probably will not be on the ball. So it's like, what does he do off ball? Can he shoot downhill? So That's
Makes
what you got
sense.
to worry in. But at that pick, that's better than probably a lot of what you get a pick of 55, 56. So it's a good pick.
It is a very decent pick. At 56, we have Ersin with the Memphis Grizzlies.
I'm thinking, what are they going to do? I have three guys in mind. Three guys in mind who are 100% going undrafted, but who I like. Okay, the first one I'm thinking of is Jamil Telford from Butler. That's a guy I like a lot, man. Jamil Telford.
Ooh, that's a nice.
But that's not really what Memphis needs. But they need a top shooter, man, a top shooter.
Yeah.
And they need some
Specialist.
skill in the front court. I think skill in the front court is maybe less needed. I'm going with a pick. I'm shocked if this guy is gonna hear his name called. And he crucified Auburn last year. Nah, man. I wrote about him today. I'm going with it. John Pulakidis from Yale. I'm going with him, man.
Ooh, I'm telling you, if there's gonna be an Ivy League guy that gets drafted, hopefully
Yeah, man.
it's gonna be him.
Pulakidis,
Man.
I'm going with him. I hope you can find him, Rob.
I hope so. I mean, he's a unique player. Like I don't think he's like a gimmick player. I think he's a guy that has pro basketball.
Mr. Anti-paint touches. Mr. I don't want to get into the paint.
Give me threes or I
his game a
retire.
lot, man.
I think the teams that you have versus the guys that you want to pick don't make sense. Like there's guys like
Yeah.
I wanted to pick Cam Jones or Javon Small. A lot of the teams that are very set in their guard rooms.
Yeah.
It's tough.
57 on the board. It's you, Mohamed, with the Orlando Magic.
I'm probably just gonna go production
Javon Small?
here. I'm deciding between Bryce Williams or Javon Small. I think Javon Small's a lot smaller, and I think still some crossover with
I like Javon Small.
the side. I'm
Do
probably
you
gonna.
think they go Kobe Sanders or is he gone already?
Did Pensare? Did you take him?
I thought I did, but let me just check. Did I take Kobe Sanders, or was I just thinking about taking Kobe Sanders and then I royally fucked
We
up?
thought about him and then we took
Ah.
Javon.
I think we pump faked him. Yeah. You know what?
Damn it. I would have
taken.
taken, if I had known he was still on the board, if my disorganized ass knew he was on the board, I would have taken him at 55. Fuck. I was like searching for like, who do I take at 52? Who do I take at 53? I would have taken Kobe Sanders at every one of those spots. Fuck. Okay,
I promise you, if the best available list was updated, you would have 100% saw him. If it was like relative to who's actually in the draft versus who's not, I promise you he would have been there. You probably would have been picked.
Yeah, I definentely would have taken him. And now people are
His
gonna be
entire
like,
list is not.
I swear to God, like, someone's gonna watch this after and be like,
Literally
I
everyone is
can't
not in the
believe
draft.
he let him go. But yes, I want
There's so many guys. Like I'm gonna look back, like I didn't know why I didn't pick him, but it's like we're not the team that needs the guy that pick, or it just is not shown on best available. I feel like sometimes when you hear the guy's name again, you're like, oh, he should be there. Like I want to pick a shooter like Matt Shulga, goated shooter, Caleb Grill. There's so many guys that are like specialists that I would be like, oh,
I believe it or not, I have Kobe Sanders 44th on my board, and like 4 guys above him have already gone back to school, so that would move him up to 40. So he was 40th on my actual board, which is insane.
Yeah, it's really tough to put a board out, man, in this draft. There's not a lot of guys.
You know what it is? The international guys are like weeks after when the actual like domestic guys, which is so odd. Like seeing today, I was like, oh, we probably would have been picked a guy like Momo
I
Faye.
think because of
Really?
all the eligibility stuff in the.
Yeah. I just don't get it though why the international one is so close to the deadline with the actual day of the NBA draft. Like it's almost damn near 2 weeks away. But hey,
Totally.
And mostly it's because the season goes until now,
yeah.
and college is done in March, so that's why
Agreed.
they get more runway.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm on the board at 58 with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Kobe Sanders has now gone off the board. Do I consider Ben Henschel here? No.
Okay, we thought about they needed 3-4, right? That's what we were thinking about.
Yeah.
You could go
That's
Jalen Moore from Oklahoma. I think he's gonna get drafted. I like him a lot, but I'm not sure if he went back to school. I think he ran out of eligibility.
He
he's
was one of those
40th
people. Yeah, I don't know if he went to the portal. There's guys that go in the portal that have no eligibility. I think he might have been one of them.
And then with the final pick, as I look for him, with the final pick, it is going to be the Houston Rockets at 59.
That I covetedly trade away to Ersin.
Nah,
This is This pick is going to be the one
It's a
that
joint
breaks me. I
pick
think.
for the three of us. Let's decide who's going to be Mr. Irrelevant, right? For 59. Let's
Oh,
just use it for the
who,
three of us.
who gets to put their hat on with the rest of their family when they're watching? Who are going to give them that excitement? Let's see. Honestly, I'm not even going to
What
overfit
does
you. I'm going to
Houston
say
need,
best.
man?
They're so deep on wings. Who did I pick? I said Houston. I picked Con Connect. No, I traded.
I think
I
they
picked
don't
Con
think they don't need anyone, man. They don't need anyone. It's crazy.
Maybe two guard because the Jalen Green experiment that's gonna run out very soon. I'm telling you.
Who was
So,
the last pick was? The last pick was.
Now you were thinking about Jalen Moore, but you wasn't sure yet.
maybe you probably go here. Maybe Jalen Moore. I think guard makes more sense. I think like their front court. Actually, no. Pick Con. They just re-signed Steven Adams today. It's really just between who stays on Houston long term between Jalen Green and Jabari.
So
You said
Jalen Moore
Max
is going to
Schiffer, right?
Cleveland. Jalen Moore is going to Cleveland at
How about
58.
Elijah Martin for the Cavs?
Okay.
Or you did already pick Jalen Moore?
Moore is off the board. Martin.
Elijah Martin.
There we go.
He
Any
could go.
rationale
He could be
for?
drafted.
His
Is
just
this the
weird.
Houston? Elijah Martin?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's to Houston. He's a really like scrappy guard, good defender. He's just his skill set is not
But
what a two guard is. That's the issue. He's like a 6'2" wing. That's his issue. But
maybe I also like Zach Hicks from Penn State. That's a good one as well. If you look for a prospect you put in a box as a shooter, a little bit of floor spacing, a little bit of defense, Zach Hicks.
it's so crazy. Penn State had him and
Did,
Nita.
Ja-
They
did
just were
Javon
so
Small,
good.
They
did
were really
Small
bad.
not get drafted?
No,
Yeah, Jamal Small did not get drafted there.
he didn't get drafted. Bryce
We
Williams didn't
messed
get
up.
drafted.
We messed up there.
Matt Shulga, Smart Bait. There's so many. It's because the teams that you're picking, you don't need that kind of guy. You don't need a smaller guard. You don't need because a lot of the guys we're missing are probably the twos.
Ryan Nemhard, Jamal
Yeah.
Small, like all these guys, they're decent. And I think had we been working off of maybe Fanspo's
Fanspo.
list, right?
100%.
Like those players would have elevated to the top. I've never really worked off of real GMs, so this actually would have required, in hindsight, if I'd known that I wasn't working off that list, probably would have done more of I would have made more of an effort to make like a detailed list on my side so I could just slice off, because it's like I'm looking at 6 different screens right now. I'm like getting confused almost. Okay.
I don't blame you.
Yeah. Any sort of final thoughts on how your teams did, and maybe any regrets, any surprises, any feelings about like how this draft
I'm gonna
went?
take all the hate from the Nets fans, man, for trading out of 8 and 10 for what I got back.
I'm gonna get some love from Houston fans. If you could leave a Concon
Yeah.
at 10, I think that is special. And I'm gonna say, actually, I want to ask this: what team do you feel like you draft the best for? Maybe if it's not expectation or what actually ends up happening, who do you feel like if this was actually my team I was drafting and I was a GM and I left with this haul, I won the draft? Like, what team?
I
do you
feel
think
like the Raptor fans will build a statue of me for getting Kaman Maluach, Carter Bryant, and Ben Seraph at 9, 10, and 39, while ridding them of 2 contracts that needed to be extended very soon, and RJ Barrett and Ochai Agbaji. Now it's not ridded; they're 2 very good players.
you might get a desk in their front office too at this point?
Yeah, maybe. But I think that would probably be the team that I'm happiest
Yeah.
for. But in terms
I
of
like
just like,
Washington as well.
I think San
Washington,
Antonio did
Mohamed
great,
did
man.
there.
I think
Washington.
San Antonio did great. Mohamed, you drafting for San Antonio, getting Colin Murray Boyles and Dylan Harper, that just fits so perfectly, and it allows them to maybe even move off of some of their players right down the line.
Yeah.
And I think Colin Murray Boyles has a chance to. I mean, I don't know about you guys. I think he could be a top 5 player in this draft. Like if the jump shot ever comes around, like the driving is real, the defense is incredible. I like him a lot.
100%. I really like him a lot.
Is there a team that you just hate how this worked out for them? Like you're just like, oh my god, I can't believe that team did this.
I think the direction that me personally, maybe Atlanta. I feel like Atlanta, they took maybe guys that maybe you hope Like you're betting on that they can create the ball for themselves at some point versus like actually having a set in stone secondary creator. But you know, I mean, at 13, who are you going to find that's like a real secondary creator?
Right.
I like Howard at 13. I just think McNeely at 22. It's like I think if with Atlanta, they're
If they
probably going
pop,
to
like if they pop, like they really
Yeah.
address their shooting because both those guys can shoot the piss out of the
That is
basketball.
true. That is true. I just feel like
So
Capella might be on the move. Do you like Okongwu long term on that team?
right.
Considering the concerns that he has, maybe you go big because I feel like if you're at 22, you probably do pick big or
Mhm.
best available at that point, and then at 13, you probably address your wing two guardish there, which Coward at 13 is really good. I like that. You could have gone Carter Bryant. There's so many guys that you could fit at that spot. So if they do hit, exceptional. But that's the if. I think that's the issue. And I think it's the if is very contingent on maybe if they become creators or improved in some other aspect of their offense. But
Yeah.
No, man, I don't think Charlotte did well, man. I don't think Charlotte
Charlotte?
did so well.
So
They could-
VJ Edgecombe. And yeah, I agree with you. VJ Edgecombe, Will Riley, and Nolan Traore
Yeah,
is a
guard,
very
they
good
have straight
haul.
man as well. They have, I don't know, man. They have so
if you
many
took-
guards.
if you took this class, like their haul, and you were like preseason, like in the summer, they'd be like, oh my god, we won the draft.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially preseason. I think, the real winners of this draft clearly are the New York Knicks, who got Hanson Yang at 50. I think that's huge. No, but honestly, I think there's a lot of teams that did really well. I think the Brooklyn Nets did amazing. If they walk out of this draft with Ochai Agbaji, RJ Barrett, the Toronto Raptors 2026 pick, which could very easily be like a late lottery pick, right? In a
Yeah.
loaded draft, plus Thomas Sorber, plus Neoklas Avdalis, plus Noah Penda. Like, my God, what an embarrassment of riches, right? Like, and they got Elijah Martin
Yeah.
at the very end, the cherry on top, and Kobe Brea. Yeah, man,
Moves off of if they move Cam Johnson, they could get way
Yeah,
more.
you get a guy like Barrett. You can move him as well.
Yeah, like you
I
got
don't
this
know.
entire poo-poo platter of like, prospects and pieces to work with. And I feel like this draft for Brooklyn kind of reminds me of Toronto's draft last year, where they walk in with just 19 and 31, and then they walk out with 19, 31, 45, plus Davion Mitchell, plus, 57. And it's just like, okay, like we're taking a lot of really small bets. And if one or two of these actually pay off, wow. Is there any player picked in the second round? Final question for you guys before we get out of here. Is there any player picked in the second round that you would think this is the player that most has a chance to be like a future Hall of Famer? Is there like any player who has that kind of upside? I mean, obviously it's kind of a, backhanded question because like if you thought they had Hall of Fame potential, you definitely wouldn't have let them slip to the second round. So it's a little bit hard. But is there a player in this that strikes you as like this could be a future All-Star? Forget Hall of Fame. Let's just this guy can make an All-Star team someday.
I think scoring upside, definitely a Will Riley. I think a Will Riley is like what you think about like a modern scoring wing. Obviously,
Yeah, I was thinking about Will Riley as well. That's the only
I
one.
was thinking about Adu.
I do Thiero too. See
Thiero?
that back to back. Thiero, I
If
think
he goes
could
to
be, like,
Boston,
all
yes, of course, man. If he goes to Boston, of course, that's the best
all
fit.
defensive bet. I think I'm trying to think of like who could be a Jalen Wells esque impact guy on this second half. Maybe a Jameer Watkins. I could see that.
Nah,
I'm
Hunter
trying to think of-
Sellers. I think he's gonna get runway in Los Angeles.
I don't think they have
Harden
him,
gets a
man.
day older. He's not gonna play 80 games, man. This guy is not. He's gonna
Yeah,
prepare for the postseason, right? I think Hunter Sellers is gonna just snoop away some minutes here and there.
Yeah, I
definitely.
think context is going to matter for all these young guys. Do they end up in a good development situation? I think the cool thing about Brooklyn,
injuries.
all the kids that just went to Brooklyn, they're in a great system. Like with Jordy
Yeah, they
Fernandez,
can do
just a
whatever they want.
fantastic coach. And yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure. There's no high stakes basketball being played in Brooklyn right now, but I think it's just generally really good. Yeah. Okay. Well, 3 hours and 27 minutes. That's pretty much the length of the actual draft. I think like we actually did it like legit time. Even though like some picks were like more like 7 minutes and some picks were more like 2 minutes, I think we got it. I'll condense this down to about 2 hours and cut in some of my rambling. What should I do here? I'm lost. My board is broken. stuff. I'll cut all that whining shit out. But thank you guys so much for doing this.
Of
Really,
course, it was fun, man. That's the
It was
most
all
important
fun,
thing.
man. This is what you gotta need, man. I love doing stuff like this, especially like the draft
Yeah.
being 2 weeks away, man. It's so good to just be in a space with people that you probably haven't got a chance to do a lot of collaboration with, just talking with, and just pick their mind. And yeah, man, I
Yeah.
love it. Appreciate you so much for just giving us the platform to do that.
Yeah, what,
yo,
man? The same for me, bro.
it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. I hope that this video lives up to the time that it took for you guys to do this. I really appreciate your time, like really, really, very much so. And I've learned a lot reading your work and watching your stuff. And I'm really, really humbled that you guys did this. And I hope this video does your work justice.
Likewise, same with you, man. You've been doing a lot of work. You've been killing it, bro. I've been seeing a lot of
Grateful.
content as well. TikTok as well, just booming. I'm telling you, man, keep killing it. I think this is like setting in stone for like next cycle. Next cycle is going to be even bigger for all of us, I hope. So I'm excited for everybody. You guys are all killing it, doing amazing things. So yeah, man, keep killing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like next year, I want to do this. Like, I want to do this with like the real timer, the real clock, a production team, and literally give each other like phone numbers of each other, or like a WhatsApp group where we can like literally private message each other. Because like I don't want to know what deal you have on the board, and I don't know who you know what I mean. Like if I can just text between me and Ersin without you guys being able to see that who we're considering, that would add an. I don't know. I want to do this like in a way that's like really cool, because the ironic thing is, even when you're watching the draft, you don't get this. You get Stephen A. You get Stephen A. Smith talking, you know, a whole bunch of nonsense, and whoever else covering the draft, or Jay Billis, but you don't actually get like the interworkings of the team and like what they're thinking and why they want. And so like doing that in a truly like, and of course it matters that you have no weak links in terms of, you know, like someone who's just totally clueless about what they're doing. So putting together like 6, 7, 8 people next year and like planning this in advance and being able to do something like this would be really, really cool. And if we,
I want somebody to offer me Corey Kispert for AJ DeBanston. Come on, man, I'm excited for this. Who's gonna do that? Darren Peterson for AJ DeBanston.
I guarantee you, Corey Kispert and Grady Dick will still be on the trading block. You want a white shooter? You got a white shooter, man. All right. Okay, guys. Thanks a lot so much. Appreciate you guys. See you.
Take care, guys.
Take care, man. Take care, y'all.